9:31, so why don't we get started? May I have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Baxter. Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Flores.
Can you talk a little more loudly, please?
Okay.
Everyone in the audience, could you talk a little more softly, please?
Vice Mayor Baxter. Commissioner Flores.
Here.
Mayor Marino.
Here.
Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. I've asked Commissioner Woodward to do the invocation and the pledge. If you'd all stand, if you can, please.
Father, guide us in the duties we are about to perform. Give us wisdom to make the best decisions for all our citizens. Help us to remember that no problem is too small to escape concern and perplexity too great to resist solution. Amen.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board, good morning. Yes, we have on page 36, 3X1 being deleted for further review.
Thank you. May I get a motion to adopt as amended?
Mayor, I'm going to make that motion for you, but I want to make sure that this item is back on the agenda the 1st of February. My understanding is we are backed up on performing spay and neuters. Obviously, we have a number of animals in our home that we foster and need this type of service. I will tell you that our own veterinarian will no longer do this. We were paying $200 to $300 a kitten, and he has said it's just not worth it for him to do it. So we can't even privately get this done through our own veterinarian. So please bring this back. This is so important. And with that, I move to adopt the amended agenda.
I have a first. Did I get a second? I have a second from Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, colleagues. I know that this item was pulled, but there was comment made on it, and I need to also comment as a result. We are undergoing a review of animal care and control. I would welcome any commissioner to be part of that discussion as long as two of us are not in the same room. Animals can be in the same room, but not another commissioner. And if we could encourage the public to get involved as well. We are taking a deep dive into the budget of animal care and control, as well as staffing, their needs. And with that, I'd like to comment publicly on the wonderful job that Stephanie is doing on behalf of the county and our county administrator, county assistant administrator, Mr. Von Laren, doing an amazing job along with Jan Steele and all of the folks there. But with that, I welcome anybody who wants to help us with animal care and control. It has been said that you can tell the quality of a culture, of civilization, by the way they treat their animals. And we are all becoming involved in that. So thank you very much, Mayor, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
I guess I missed something. It might be good just to have the conversation up here so we can all catch up. It sounds interesting. It seems like we have two people on opposite sides of the aisle on this particular issue. At some point, we have to discuss it. So I do encourage that conversation to happen up here. So that way we can flush it out. Thank you.
I guess my question would be to the administrator, why are we pulling this?
There was some additional questions and discussions on how other things can be done. So we wanted to give the deference to the commissioner that had the inquiry to respond to her questions, and this will give us that opportunity. And then once, we will bring that back.
And if it has to do with salary and cost, are we talking to other counties and what they're paying for these services?
We're always comparing what we're doing to other like counties. And so when we're looking at actual cost, staff has done surveys on what that cost is. This particular contract, we have been paying come on up, Stephanie. We have been paying $150 per hour. And then the cost went up because the cost of everything is going up. So that's what we have in front of you. We actually wait to stack up the number of animals, so the person coming up will have a full day of spay and neuter for our pets. These are our larger dogs that we're looking at. They're not our small dogs. The larger dogs are more difficult to spay and neuter, and we need to make sure that we're providing the appropriate follow-up work. We have partners that actually perform some of the functions for us today, but this doctor helps us catch up on the overflow. You want to add anything, Stephanie?
Yeah, sure. So this contract is very unique because there's not a large number of vets in Palm Beach County that can provide high-volume spay-neuter services. There's probably 4 to 5 vets. This vet is actually from Miami. We have negotiated a deal. He gets paid more in Miami to provide these services. So right now he's making $150 an hour. And he can perform 35 to 40 spay-neuter surgeries a day. With large dogs, it obviously takes a little longer, but with cats, that's our largest waiting list. We have community cats, TNVR, to Commissioner Weiss's point. There's a critical need for spay-neuter services. Our wait list is approximately 3 months. Our trappers schedule an appointment, and then they trap the day or 2 before and bring those cats in. Right now, we have about 56 to 60 dogs on the waiting list for spay-neuter services. We offer spay-neuter services for dogs 1 to 2 days a month. We would love to offer them more. We have for cats 1 to 2 days a week. And those are only community cats. We do not even offer spay-neuter services for publicly owned cats. Those are all sent to our rescue partners. This is actually a fairly good deal. If you look at the hourly rate that we pay him, along with the number of spay-neuter services that he performs, it's about $50 per animal. We right now pay our rescues $70 for a cat and $100 for a dog. So this does not include any of our shelter-owned animals, not owned, but those that we're going to adopt or foster out. Those sterilization services are provided by our in-house vets. As you know, we have a very difficult time hiring vets here in Palm Beach County. The rate of pay that they can make with a private vet is astronomically more, but it's usually the passion, what drives them to work here. So I hope that's additional information that helps with the conversation, and any other questions I can answer.
So is this gentleman, and pardon me, performing services now for us?
He was, but we have him on hold until the contract is approved.
And we're getting backed up in
Yes.
the animals that we can help right now.
Yes.
I, for one, don't really want to see this taken off the agenda. I know we have a motion and a second to amend the
Can I
agenda.
withdraw my second?
Yes, you can.
May I be recognized, Mayor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. We need to have a conversation here, 7 of us. We need to have the information here for 7 of us. And this is why Stephanie's working on it, Todd's working on it, Virginia. We're having a meeting after this hearing, and hopefully it'll be put on real soon, because we need to take care of our animals. And an item on the consent agenda that raises from $50 to $200 for a vet is just not enough information. Our dogs
clarification.
are, just 1 second, Mayor. We had an issue here last month where we heard about cockroaches. And if you want, I'll open it up. I don't wish to, because I think that the people who are concerned with animal care and control facility should be present. Because they're doing a great job, and I think they need to be present for the conversation. So if we're going to have the conversation, we need to have it on a day where everybody here is present so they can work with us on it. But to pull it up with very little information, and it was the county administrator who pulled it, I didn't pull it. I think that out of respect for the administration of this county, we should abide by that and set it on a general agenda. And let's get all the information, get the folks here. I think we got a great animal care and control. I think it can be better. But I would certainly not want to bring it up now. I don't have the contract. Y'all don't have the contract. I don't know who the gentleman is. I don't know about the 5 nonprofits that do this. And more importantly than ever, I think the head of animal care and control should be here out of respect for her and the work that she does. So I respect our county administrator by pulling it, and I'll abide by that. Thank you.
Thank you. But this was on last week's agenda and pulled, and on this week's agenda. So folks know that this was on the agenda. And if they choose to be here or not, that's not something we can control. And this is not about animal care and control and the facility itself. This is about someone providing services for our cats and dogs for spay and neuter. And it didn't go from 50 to 200. It went from $150 to $200. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So just a point of clarification, I want to make sure that the information that's out there is correct. But again, this has been noticed, this has been on the agenda. We can always move it from consent to regular, which it seems like we've just done that in essence, because we are discussing it. So I would welcome any more discussion about it now, because I really think that this is a service that needs to be provided as soon as possible. Commissioner Flores.
I just want to ask the administration, will we be able to have the conversation at the next meeting? Will we be ready?
Yes, because what we'll do is we'll get with the Commissioner Sachs to find out specifically what she wants, but we can lay out the budget. We can talk about our contracts. We can talk about our partners that we contract with. All of that is in the public record right now, and we're able to pull that information together. That's not an issue.
Okay, so then I will be the second with the comments made by Commissioner Weiss that this be brought up, was it February 1st? First meeting in February. Thanks.
Commissioner Sachs, your light is on, and then Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Woodward.
My question, I guess, to the administrator, if we delay this, effectively right now, we are not providing this service. It's on hold.
So it's
if
not
we're-
on hold. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So I'm just trying to understand, by delaying this, like, what are the consequences of us delaying this another, 3 weeks at this point?
It's just going to extend our wait list, and those that have scheduled appointments, we had planned on it being approved last week. So we had notified the doctor that we would like to schedule him to come in. Now we would have to postpone that. And so then those dogs that were maybe scheduled are going to have to wait, or cats.
And how long has this doctor been providing the service for the county?
Several years. I don't have the exact number of years, but let me see. I mean, at least, I know this was an extension. It's through 2025. I know he started, I would say at least 3 years he's been providing services for us.
Okay, I for one would like to see us settle this today, if it's not the will of the entire board, but if we need to pull it from consent, I'd like to have the discussion today and us move this forward, but that's a vote to be had, I believe, at this point.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
I wanted to ask, are you making a substitute motion?
Yes, I guess I am making a substitute motion that we move this item from deletion to regular agenda.
I'll consent to that. Or I will second her for moving it from consent to regular agenda.
Okay, so we have a substitute motion. Any more discussion on the substitute motion? So we'll take a vote.
Mayor Marino,
Yes.
is that also a motion to adopt the agenda with
We're going to make a, we have to, if we're moving it, then we'll adopt the agenda as amended, but we haven't moved it yet. So once we do, once we figure it out, then we'll move to adopt the agenda as amended. But we're not there yet. Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor of the substitute motion, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? See that it carries 5-2 with Commissioner Sacks and Commissioner Flores dissenting. Okay, so now I will need a motion to approve the agenda with this item being moved to regular.
So moved.
So I have a first from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See that it carries 7-0. So do we have all of our motions and seconds
Now you need
correct?
consent to adopt it or accept it.
So now we will move, well, okay. We have one card on consent. May I have you call that person?
John Gorski. Item 3M1.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is John Gorski, and I'm president of the Parks Foundation for Palm Beach County. And I'm here seeking your comments and approval on a proposed agreement between the county and the Parks Foundation so that we may be able to solicit funds from donors to make a tax-deductible contribution to our foundation that we can then pass through to the county parks to supplement and add to their strategic plan that for projects that are unfunded by the natural county annual budget. We all have an affinity for parks. Mine happens to be competitive water skiing. I started traveling to West Palm Beach over 10 years ago from the north in order to ski at Okehele Park and our ski club of the Palm Beaches. I have many friends that have done the same thing, not just from the US, but also from Europe in the winter months. Many of us are now proud to call West Palm Beach home. So our parks are not just for our mental and physical and emotional health, but also our economic development in the region. Whatever your passion, parks are here for everyone, and our mission is to supplement the county parks budget in order for them to continue the projects and the great work that they're doing. We have already received our 501c3 tax-exempt letter from the IRS and approval from the state of Florida Department of Agriculture to solicit funds. I'm proud to have many of our board members here in the audience with me, who many of the commissioners know through other community efforts, and I'm proud of all your contributions to our local community for our time, talent, and treasures. We also already have a matching grant of $350,000 that we signed earlier this month from a donor that we can now go solicit funds from to match those over the next several months. Comments and approval from the agreement proposed today before the commissioners is what we're seeking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have no more comments, so we will we have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? See that it carries 7-0. Any more motions I need to make? Excuse me? We're good?
Can I
We're
have
up
the
to date?
can I have the maker and seconder for the consent agenda, please?
Who made the motion in the second? Did you make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Vice Mayor Baxter, or second Commissioner Woodward? Thank you very much. All right, and on behalf of the board, this is a wonderful idea. Parks and Rec is something that always needs augmentation, and you, as a nonprofit, you have the opportunity to go after grants that we can't. So thank you for doing this, because people being outside is the healthiest thing we can do for ourselves. Thank you. All right, so we are going to move on to public hearings. May I get a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
Second.
I have a first from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Commissioner Sacks. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See, the motion carries 7-0. Now we are on to 4A1, Housing and Economic Development. Staff is looking for a motion to adopt the ordinance. Do we need a staff presentation for this item? I see all heads shaking no, so we will go ahead and have a Motion?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item 4A1, adopt an ordinance of Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County relating to the Economic Development ad valorem tax exemption program that we voted on in August.
Thank you. So I have a first from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Commissioner Flores. All in favor? All opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. I know that there is a change in wording on a page in 4A2. So Sherry, can you come up and just clarify for us, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the record.
Good morning, Sherry Howard, Housing and Economic Development. Yes, we just wanted to make the announcement formally that the adoption of the hearing will be on February 11th, the final adoption for that hearing.
Thank you. Does anybody need a presentation for 4A2? We have 2 cards, so we'll go ahead and call those folks up.
Benjamin Bailey and Sylvia Winkles.
Good morning, Benjamin Bailey. I just wanted to say that I do support the designation that will hopefully solve the long issues with our community. And I mean, the biggest complaint is the toxins and the concerns with the soil, which this should provide even additional oversight. So I just wanted to say that I support the designation.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Morning, Mayor Marino and Greg Weiss. Nice to see you again. My position has not changed. I am still in complete support of the Toll Brothers project on the Cypress Creek Golf Course. I really believe that with the contract that Toll Brothers will have to go into with the state makes me absolutely in favor and completely trust the state regulatory system that is going to make sure that these toxins, whatever they are, will be cleaned up properly. And also, I just wanted to let you know that Toll Brothers has been extremely upfront and forward with our community. Everything that they do, it goes right out. We get it. And I just want you to know I'm still completely in support of this, and I believe that this designation and this cleanup is going to be very good for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to extend my thanks both to the community and for Toll Brothers working together on this. I know at times questions have come up to my office, and we've been able to get resolution from both sides. I think that, you know, as this moves forward, I want folks to know, though, that I and the folks in my office, we are standing by. If there are issues or concerns, that they can reach out to us, and I am more than happy to get engaged on it. I know it's, you know, for some folks, hearing about having, you know, toxins in the soil and then potentially what a brownfield designation and what does that mean and so forth. So we're happy to help explain that as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to move this item as well, Mayor.
I'll have it, and a second from Commissioner Sachs. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. And just as an FYI, we'll take the animal care and control when we start the regular agenda. We'll continue with the public hearing right now. 4B1, Office of Equal Business Opportunity. Staff is looking for a motion to adopt. Does anyone need a presentation on this? We have one card. Thank you very much.
We have one card. It's asked to have it read into the record. Okay. AGC would like to thank the staff, Assistant County Administrator Kaloya, I'm not going to say her name right, Isami, Tanya and Melody for meeting with us, going through the proposed changes and answering any concerns had. Much of this appears to be cleanup work to coincide with the revisions to purchasing code, which AGC also engaged in last year and our recommendations approved. These changes also reflect the OEBO volume increases for eligible criteria for SBEs, which the BCC moved forward with AGC's request for resurrection of consideration of this item and passed unanimously by the Commission last March. Thank you, along with preclusion of SPEs being pulled off projects mid-project because they may have reached the threshold for graduation. Years back, we were involved in setting up the Mentor Protege program and supporting it as well. There was a suggestion made by us with so much reference back to the purchasing code on many items that there be a link on the OEBO website, if not already implemented, that would take you to the purchasing code for easy toggling, if you will, when comparing language or seeking interpretation. Thank you, Michelle DePotter.
Thank you. So we need a motion and a second, please. I have a first by Commissioner Powell, a second by Commissioner Flores. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Okay, so we're going to go to the regular agenda, and we will take up the animal care and control discussion that was on page 36, I believe.
Mayor,
Yes.
if it is possible, we're having some documents printed up for you so that we give you the budget and you have all of that information at your fingertips this morning. We've already got copies of it. We just need to make copies for the board. If we could.
Want us to put this
skip
later in the
put-
agenda?
Yes, please.
Happy to do that. Okay. I'm sorry? Yes. So usually the first item on our agenda are airports. Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you, Mayor. Let the record reflect that I oppose and object to any discussion by the Board of County Commissioners on a facility that is operated and budgeted by the Board of County Commissioners, by our taxpayers, without the director being here, and without a deep dive, which we were going to do right after the meeting. I oppose it because under the due process clause, the Constitution, I hate to get that deep, people should have the opportunity to be present and to discuss what we will decide about their facility. So the reason it was pulled twice is because we wanted to have them here to discuss it openly with us. To proceed to a discussion today on a county facility that's under our jurisdiction is, quite frankly, is wrong and not fair to the people who run the facility, as well as to their employees. If there is any animal, and I'm asking this question to Ms. Baker, if there's any animal that is being damaged, injured, or in any way, say, not taken care of by putting this off for another week or two, could you let us know?
If the animals are under our control, we're taking care of them. This just simply will add to the backlog that we have to have animals spayed and neutered. So I think that there's enough work that we'd be able to get through it with this contract and with other vets in our county if that is going to be our solution. But we're here to follow through with whatever the direction the board gives us.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. And so with that in mind, I want everyone to know who's listening to this, that no animal is going to be injured or set aside for a week delay, and allowing the directors of the facility and our 5 nonprofits who work with us for free to be present either by Zoom or here in our audience to partake in this discussion before the 7 of us determine their fate. So that's it. I just want the record to reflect that. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing that.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. My question's for the administrator. Why is Jan not here?
Because this is an amendment to a contract, existing contract that expired. And this particular doctor, from my understanding, has been doing a phenomenal job for us at a reasonable rate. And so what it was just the First Amendment increasing that cost by $50, bringing it from $150 to $200. This is normal procedure for us. The board has already given us authority to move forward. The policy has been set. And so when we have these contracts amendments and they're following the same procedures and policies as before, we put them on consent. So that's why she's not here.
May I make a suggestion, especially if we're pulling things from consent and moving them because there's concerns? I think it would be a good practice to have the director here.
Normally we would, but just so we're all on the same page, Stephanie Sheenaha is the Director of Public Safety. She's my department head. She's got a number of divisions under her. I hold her responsible for, just like you hold me responsible for all 7,100, but I hold her responsible for that. If I had known this was gonna evolve to this, she would have been here. I think we've already called for her to come downtown.
Yes.
So if this is delayed, she should be here by the time we get to this item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For clarity purposes, Commissioner Sachs said that we have a number of nonprofits that are doing work for free. I'm not sure if those nonprofits are doing spaying and neutering. And I'm also trying to catch my footing with regard to this particular issue. Are we concerned that, trying to preference this, the cats and dogs that are not being spayed and neutered right now, if we're putting this issue off, are they actively? That's it, procreating.
Getting pregnant? Yeah, getting pregnant?
So the question is, while we're doing this and they're waiting to be spayed or neutered, are they out here making new dogs and cats? And then if they are people, right? Are we gonna have to spay and neuter those new dogs and cats now? Which now incrementally increases the cost. So what's happening? Where are these animals that we are waiting to spay and neuter? Are they in a facility just hanging out? Are they actively on the prowl?
So our community cats are feral. They're in the community, so they don't have a home. People are typically feeding them. If you don't sterilize them, they are going to populate, continue. I mean, and rapid. Their gestation cycle is fairly quick. As far as our publicly owned dogs, we focus on our at-risk, so your large breeds, and there are, obviously, members that own animals that like to breed them, and we encourage sterilization efforts as much as possible. And so those dogs are on wait right now to be spayed and neutered. We have about 60 on the list. But again, in order to reduce animal populations, spay and neuter efforts are number one. It's our number one priority.
Thank you.
May I suggest that since we're going to put this off till later in the agenda, that we continue the conversation later in the agenda when we bring it up, and hopefully Ms. Steele will be here by then?
I would be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sachs, Commissioner Flores, is that okay with you?
Yes, I'll wait, because I know that we were going to have a meeting after this agenda meeting today with all of the people involved. But I can assure you that we have 5 nonprofits that are doing spay and neutering right now, and that the animals that this particular vet, and I don't know the gentleman, could be a lady, I don't know, but whoever this vet is, he does our animals who are in cages, who are, he goes out to the neighborhoods and do it? Does he do it out in the neighborhoods?
So he performs the services on site, but those are animals that are brought to our shelter. Our shelter
They are
owned.
then put into a cage?
No,
No.
they're returned to the owner or returned to the community, which are considered our
People
community
pay,
cats.
but if I brought my large dog in to have him neutered, I guess neutered for a dog, spayed for a cat, or for a female. So either one, I'd have them taken care of. Would I pay for that?
So at-risk animals, we have no charge, and especially if you're on public assistance, we don't charge.
Okay, but I would pay, as Maria Sachs bringing my animal in to be taken care of. What is the fee for that?
If you're at risk, we do not charge.
Not at risk.
So if you
I can
have
pay. I
so-
can pay. So what does private people pay?
Again,
And this is
again,
what I wanted to go
Commissioner
into.
Sachs, please, can
Yes.
we continue this discussion when
Yes,
we
and this
have
is
it? This is not the time, nor is it even an agenda item right now for the discussion.
Well, it is
So
on
I'm-
the agenda, Mayor. I did not want to have this discussion without the people here to inform us.
So let's
And that-
continue the
just one second,
discussion
let me
when they are
at
here.
least
No.
let me finish my sentence.
Commissioner
So that
Sachs,
the record is
you're
clear.
out of
This
order.
is why I wanted it. Then I'm out of order.
Commissioner Sachs, you are out of
So
order.
this is why I wanted it, so that we could have everybody here to explain. Thank you very much. Thanks, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Flores, your light is on. Can we please continue this discussion later, when we have it as a truly agended item?
We can. I just want to, for a point of clarity, because we're in the conversation right now, and there's people at home listening, they might not finish the conversation later on. Are we still providing spay and neutering right now? Because I understood this is just one of the components of that program.
Yes, we're still providing spay and neuter services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We are going to move on to item 5A1, regular agenda, airports. Does anybody need a presentation? May I
Are
have a
there any
motion?
cards?
Are there any cards?
I'll make the motion to approve item 5A1, A, B, C, and D.
I have a second from, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See, the motion carries 7-0. We are now on item 5B1. Planning, zoning, and building, milestone inspection, and I think we would like a report on this. Thank you.
And our favorite deputy administrator.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, good morning. As Doug and his crew are settling in, item before you is to give you an update and seek your direction on the condo recertification, the milestone inspection, where we are with regards to the statutory provisions and your direction on meeting the requirements for those who, to date, have not met the statutory requirements. Additionally, we wanted to seek your direction on moving forward with a previous discussion and direction the board gave related to assistance for condos that were being hit with assessments, and a discussion about potential funding for those. But I'm going to hand it over to Doug right now to run through his presentation, maybe to introduce his staff and walk you through where we are and the work that's been done to date.
Good morning. For the record, Doug Wise, Building Division. I have with me Michael Gogger, Jeff Gromberg, Kevin Noon, Wynn. Jeff Gromberg is a senior professional engineer, and Ryan is our county attorney, assistant county attorney. Mike's going to start the PowerPoint. You want to go ahead? You want me to advance it? You do it? Can you run it?
Yeah, I can push it.
Okay.
Survive.
Here you go.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, County Administrator. Again, my name is Michael Gogger. Today we're going to be presenting an overview of three main parts. Part one will discuss the background, regulations, requirements, and the milestone inspection report process. Part two focuses on the Palm Beach County's response, highlighting pre-statute correspondence, outreach initiatives, follow-up notifications, and the internal review process. Finally, part three will cover current reporting results, compliance, authority, rules, and will also examine the compliance method in other jurisdictions. The state law was enacted in May of 2022, requiring all condos and cooperative buildings that are 3 stories or more in height to be structurally inspected and certified at 30 years of age. The law was implemented after the Champlain Tower collapse in 2021. On June 11th, 2024, Palm Beach County adopted these provisions in its local amendments to the Florida Building Code, which applies to condos and co-ops in unincorporated areas of the county only. Buildings that reach 30 years of age before July 1st, 2022 must be inspected by December 31st, 2024. Buildings reaching 30 years of age between July 1st, 2022, and December 31st of 2024 must be completed by the December 31st of 2025. Additionally, newer buildings must have a milestone inspection by December 31st of the year they reach 30 years of age and every 10 years after. On the screen is a simplified milestone inspection report process consisting of several phases. We'll discuss this in more detail later on. For phase 1 of the milestone inspection, a state licensed architect or engineer must visually examine both habitable and uninhabitable parts of the building. This inspection should examine the main structural elements and assess their condition. If substantial deterioration is found, a phase 2 inspection will be required. Phase 1 inspections must be recorded on a state-issued form. Extensions up to 60 days may be allowed if minimum requirements are met. The phase 1 process has 3 paths. Path A, the phase 1 report is submitted, passes, and the process is complete. Path B, a 60-day extension to complete phase 1 is requested. It either passes or requires a phase 2. Failure to submit or obtain an extension receives enforcement. Path C, the phase 1 report has been submitted and identifies substantial deterioration. A phase 2 is required 180 days after receiving the phase 1 report, and the phase 2 report or its progress is required to be submitted. Phase 2 is required if any substantial structural deterioration is identified during the phase 1 inspection. It may involve destructive or non-destructive testing, as directed by the architect or engineer. The extent is determined based on what is necessary to fully assess whether the building is structurally sound and safe for its intended use, and to recommend a program for evaluating and repairing any areas of the building. Inspections are completed using a state-issued form. Extensions of up to 60 days may also be allowed if minimum requirements are met. Please note, substantial structural deterioration refers to significant damage that compromises a building's structural integrity, affecting major components deemed dangerous. Surface issues like cracks, peeling, distortion, or sagging are not classified as substantial unless verified by the licensed engineer or architect. The phase 2 process also has 3 paths. Path A, the phase 2 report is submitted, passes, and the process is complete. Path B, a 60-day extension is complete. Phase 2 is requested. It either passes or requires repairs. Failure to submit or obtain extension on time receives enforcement. Path C, the phase 2 report has been submitted and identifies repairs. 180 days is given to complete these repairs. If repairs are needed after a phase 2 inspection, the building owner must complete them within 180 days of the inspection report, unless the building official allows otherwise. If repairs cannot commence within the period, the owner can request an extension of up to 185 days, but not more than 365. The architect or engineer must request this extension, which also requires approval from the building official. A building permit must remain active per the Florida Building Code to qualify for these extensions. The repair process only has 2 paths. Path A, repairs begin and are completed, a phase 1 amended report is submitted, and the process is complete. Path B, a 185-day extension is requested for a total of 365 days from the phase 2 report submission to commence repairs. At this point, it either follows Path A to completion, or there is a failure to commence repairs or obtain an extension and shall receive enforcement. I thank you for your time. This concludes Part 1, and I will now pass it to Mr. Wise for further review. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Again, for the record, Doug Wise, building official.
Hold on one second, please, sorry. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question for you. So when you're giving those timelines, 180 days to 300, Is that for, they have to be, the repairs have to be completed, or they have to commence with the
They
repair?
have to be commenced.
Because if there's substantial repairs, it could take it longer. Now, do they have to get an extension if they've commenced, or can they?
I think the previous slide, let me see if I can go back to the previous slide. Slide 11. Right there, as long as the permit is active, maintaining such extensions are contingent on maintaining an active building permit, which
Okay.
means passing an inspection every 180 days.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to clarify for the public to understand that they've got, some of these obviously are substantial repairs that may be needed to be done, and so that they have time to actually complete them, but they just need to get it started.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And to continue with that, what that's also saying is that as they're doing the repairs, you are keeping a watchful eye on them to make sure they're getting done.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, it indicates they've got to request extensions through this program, even if they've got an active permit. That's my take, unless, Ryan, you agree? Okay, so I want to go back a little bit in history. You may recall, for those of you that were up on the dais in July of 2021, we started down this road with a presentation to the commissioners. And one of the things we showed you was the letter that we sent out to the board, to the POAs and condo boards, anybody that had a tall building in Palm Beach County. There's a copy of the letter there. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, I'm going backwards, sorry. Always get me to go the wrong way. Here we go. So this letter was sent in July of 2021. I will note that Surfside was 30 days before that. So we were immediate response. The county administrator asked us, what are we going to do? And so we said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to notify people and start working. This is before the ordinance was even, before the regulations even happened. We did outreach in 2021. We partnered up with the League of Cities, brought together a group of building officials and fire officials from around the county. We had a number of meetings, all there. You can see, I don't know that I need to read all those to you, but we've been working pretty hard at this for the last 3 years. We went to Lake Clark Gardens, which is one we identified early on, and I don't mean to pick on them, but that was one of the oldest tall condos we identified in the early investigation.
So now that you threw that out there,
Pardon me?
so now that you threw that out there, how are they doing with their inspections?
They're doing okay. We've got some reports on them. Kevin, you want to weigh in on that? Lake Clark Gardens, we got a request from the paper not that long ago asking about leaking roofs, which were identified in the Phase 1 report. But I would point out the definition of substantial structural deterioration does not include a leaking roof. So you got to understand that's unless the engineer or architect says it is.
Yeah, so we have some reports coming in from them, and we're in the process of reviewing them, but they are coming in.
Thank you.
So we did a number of mailings along the way. Original mailing of that first letter I showed you, we did 350 of those on July 21st, 21. Subsequent to the new legislation, we did mailings in July of 23 and January and February 24. We have all these mailings in here. We had a number that didn't submit. We also discovered there were a number that never registered with the state of Florida. So, I mean, that's, it made it real hard. We had to go out and find them. The current process, sorry. So that's the statistics on what was mailed out. You want to drive? Thank you. I can't chew gum and walk. I'm sorry. So we have a website set up now by ISS to basically take the submissions. We do a preliminary sufficiency review with staff before it goes to a technical reviewer, and they're making sure that the forms are there that are required by the state of Florida and they've been filled out, and theoretically there's a right license on it. Once that's done, we send it to reviewers. Either Jeff or Kevin or one of the commercial plan reviewers will review it. It's either accepted, returned, or denied with comments. You'll see the statistics in compliance here. I want to point out at the bottom, You know, we're not charging, we want everybody to be able to have as much money as they can to fix their buildings. So we're not charging for this. We're reviewing plans, you know, reports as much as what, 3 and 4 times? And, you know, trying to help the customers. So the violation, if they don't submit, obviously, there's penalties there. Failure to submit a timely milestone report, we have a number of those in the statistics. Where's the statistics? Oh, sorry, I went past it. Thank you, Patrick. I can't do the paper. Okay, so we had, okay, the 568 buildings were identified that fell into this net. 25,000 units. 455 had total submitted Phase 1 reports. We're still lacking 113 Phase 1 reports. 235 have been accepted to date. 220 are still under review. That means there may have been corrections requested or waiting for a resubmittal on it. Phase 2, we received 107 reports. You know,
That's 107 required.
107 were required out of the 455 is what you're saying? So out of the but that we accepted 235. 107 out of what we accepted?
107 out of the 455. Some of them have been through preliminary review, and they indicated that phase 2 is required.
Okay, so we're not done reviewing those either. Okay, so I mean, it's a moving target. I want to say that. These numbers are subject to change every day. I'm not sure I understand how the numbers work either. They got 455, it's 25% of them, but only 235 have been accepted. That's kind of, that's a problem for me. Okay, so the penalties here, obviously, failure to submit a milestone inspection report is in the code now, 113.5 and 113.6. Basically, it directs the county that we may take it to the Code Enforcement Board, special magistrate, to conduct a hearing. And then if they fail to comply with a Phase 2 requirement, then we can basically go to the unsafe structure boards.
Hold on one second. Commissioner Sachs, you have your light on?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Weiss, y'all have done a great job, and especially since you jumped on this right away. My concern is with folks having to pay assessments. That's a big deal for a lot of our seniors who live in condos. And I noticed that both Century Villages are under this. And there are others who basically been living there for many, many years. For whatever reason, the HOA has not complied with building requirements for years. And I appreciate what we're giving them time to complete the work. But do we have jurisdiction or authority, I'm looking at you, to allow them time to pay these assessments? Maybe your microphone.
That's outside of Brian Meyer, Assistant County Attorney. That's outside of our jurisdiction. But, I mean, as far as compliance with the timelines, as Doug alluded to earlier, they have 365 days from the milestone 2 inspection report to commence those repairs, those constructions, repairs.
Repairs, right.
So within that time frame, you know, they can request extensions, and that, you know, we can add additional time pursuant to our discretion within the code, or within the statute, to allow timeframes within that 365 days and beyond that to allow extensions. So as far as the coffers to pay for it, that's outside of our jurisdiction.
So I'm asking, and I know, Patrick, you want to say something. Under our ordinance, which is up on the board, well, there's serious penalties. So we don't have any jurisdiction to persuade HOA directors to put off assessments until, if we give them time to do the work. This is structural. This is, as you said, not a hole in the roof. This is structural. This costs a lot of money. And it's important that they comply. Can we find some way to, if we extend the time for them to do the repairs, can we also either we can make an ordinance, we can, look at an ordinance, we can interpret an ordinance to give them also time to pay for the work that they have to do structurally.
Well, Commissioner Sachs, if it were to get to that level where they, put in the Part 2 milestone inspection report that said they needed repairs, and they didn't, commence those repairs within 365 days, and we'd had to bring it to the unsafe structure board, at that point, that would be up to the unsafe structure board's discretion to allow time. And oftentimes, when it goes before that board, they ask questions like, do you have the funds to pay for these repairs? And
Let's say,
they'll give
this
time.
is a board that is a commission, in other words, not us. Can we do something, county attorney, to possibly extend the time for the payment of assessments for these structural repairs? We don't have that jurisdiction.
I don't think we would have that kind of jurisdiction. And, there is a state statute that governs condominiums and talks about the board of directors and the condominium boards. So I don't think that we can intervene and compel that condominium cannot collect the assessments it needs to do these repairs.
Okay, Mr. Weiss?
Yeah, I was going to say, there was companion legislation that went through, the Florida legislature along with this, which was the Structural Integrity Reserve Study. So that's now in the condo law, and, somebody could go look at that and see what it says. But they have a responsibility to study the building and come back with what is the cost of it so that there are reserves in place to cover it so we don't fall short. And it does grant some time frames for the HOAs and the POAs to come into compliance. The problem is, if they haven't been doing it, now it's sticker shock. So people are getting shocked.
Right.
But this is outside our jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Flores.
So I want to go into the rabbit hole here. What happens with these buildings that don't have the funds? So they do their inspection. They go through, because they were past 30 years, they do their inspection. They have significant structural damage. They have to do something ASAP. They have 365 days if you ask for the maximum extensions, right?
Well, that's just statutorily what's allowed to
So
commence.
what happens if they don't have the funds?
Well, that's the $100 question, and that's what we're here to talk to you guys about. But, the reality of it is, the engineer has to request the extension. So, they have to tell us there's no dangerous conditions. That's one of the conditions in the Phase 2 report. There's no dangerous situation. And so we're not going to go looking to kick people out of their houses. We're not going to look to basically knock down buildings. That's not the intent of this. We want the buildings to be maintained and repaired. And by and large, I'm going to say they have been. We have a number of buildings, we do this all the time throughout the county on two-story buildings. We have cases in Century Village, people removing bearing walls on 2 stories. We have railings and stairwells where the balusters are falling apart. So, we deal with this routinely. Fire and building deals with this. We're not out to hurt these people. This is an unfunded mandate from our perspective. We're being directed to do this. I don't have any choice. I have discretion on certain things, but, the discretion I have is subject to you guys telling me what you'd like to see me do. So if I hear you correctly, I'm hearing that the commission would like us to grant the maximum available time without compromising public safety.
I don't think we've determined anything just yet.
We've gotten there
We're
yet,
asking
but
questions.
we're just, and I know you still have a couple more slides.
Okay.
So why don't we wrap up Commissioner Flores's question?
Yeah, so you said there was another board that if they can't, they pass the 365 days, the maximum. There's another board that oversees whether they can stay in the building?
There's another board that would hear an appeal of an unsafe. It could be deemed unsafe. But again, it's a discretionary call, depends on what the Phase 2 report called for.
Right.
The last thing I would want to do is be the building official on a Surfside event.
Right.
And I think that's the last thing you'd want from me.
So this board, what's the name of it? Who's on this
Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
That's county board.
It's appointed by the Board of County Commissioners with representatives from the different districts, and it has a number of building officials, engineer and architect, and they basically hear cases, appeals of the determination of the building official. Everything I say or we do that my staff does is subject to appeal through that board.
And that board can say, you can stay for a time period, get it done, or they can say it's not safe, everybody get out.
I think they can, they could say they're safe to stay as long as we don't exceed the statutory time periods.
Right, and at that board hearing, they have to have their design professional present to testify to the safeness of that building. And based on what they would testify to, the board has the discretion to extend the amount of time they have to come into compliance.
And the statutory time period is to 365.
To
To begin, to get a permit.
So that's a year, and if they can't get that done, then at that point, they're out.
No, I think it could take 10 years to do repairs. Having worked in concrete restoration as part of my career, I was the building official once upon a time at the South Palm Beach and other communities with tall high-rise. You start at one end of the building and you start working around. And anybody on any of the high-rises on the beach, they're continually doing concrete repairs out there.
Okay.
And I don't think that gets to substantial structural deterioration. But, Surfside is the horror story. What went wrong there? It's a whole nother.
Right.
But the answer is, it's as long as the permit's active, passing an inspection show us something every 6 months, you're making progress to make it safe, we can extend the time, as long as the engineer or architect agrees.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, the members who make up that board, that's their jobs. I mean, it's not us who have a multitude of things that we know. These are people that are experts in hopefully experts in their field, or more qualified than we are to make that decision.
The board has 7 building officials from 7 districts of the county, and an engineer and an architect. And also, I think, at-large citizens, too.
And Mayor, if I could, I want to draw you back to the points, and the end results are very worthy of discussion. A big point of what we're here in front of you today is we won't know where these are until they do their phase 1. If they submit their phase 1 and it does trip a phase 2, then a phase 2 is the deeper dive. The phase 2 might precipitate permits, other activity. There's the ability doing that deeper dive into phase 2 to say, no, it's okay. You need, there's some superficial things, not to dismiss the concerns, but that's that tail end piece. Our big issue initially with the board, and we're looking for your direction, is how to address the 100 or so that haven't even done phase 1. And not to do the big catch-22 on it, we can't even get to that point, addressing it, dealing with those that might be tough circumstances, unless they've done phase 1, then phase 2, how they're gonna react to phase 2. So just wanted to keep the structure in place of what we're looking for initially, knowing that there could be tougher situations down the road, yes.
So today's discussion is on the 100 and, was it 22?
100-ish.
100-ish, that everyone else has done what they've been required to do and asked to do and responded, and these 122 have not.
You've got a great majority that have submitted their phase 1. Some have moved into phase 2. You do have a percentage that have not submitted phase 1. We're seeking your direction on how to address them. And then, we'll work through that one and then follow up again, second discussion on the previous direction on funding. But Doug's probably got a couple slides left, and we can close that out.
Okay, before we move on, Commissioner Powell, you want to keep your question till later, or you want to go now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this may be a parallel conversation with regard to the assessments, and it may not center directly on what we're discussing right now, but there's this idea that condominium boards, based on deferred maintenance, come up with assessments that they charge to the residents who are currently living in these condos. And sometimes these are not condos that are 3 stories or higher, but I do want to figure out and dig a little bit deeper at some point into these assessments to make sure that you said earlier, it's not the county that would be inspecting and trying to remove people from the residences. But what I have seen is some of these condo boards come up with assessments based on this idea that they've missed a level of deferred maintenance, and the assessments have been too expensive or too high for the residents who are currently living there to afford, which has forced them to have to move out. So it may not be the county's board or the county's building department that is requiring people to lose their homes, but it's certainly happening. So I do want to have this conversation, maybe a parallel issue, maybe a concurrent issue, but it's happening, and I want to see, as a board and as a building department, how we can help to address that, because unfortunately, people who are senior citizens and people who have saved to purchase a condo unit have been living in some of these units and now have been forced to sell and try to move out, whether they move in with their children or move to another state. It is certainly happening, and it's happening in District 7 in my former district when I served in the Senate District 24. So I would like to dig a little bit deeper into that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any easy answers for that. I know that the Florida legislature is going to take another look at this coming up this session. I think that there isn't going to be a special session on this, last thing I heard, but they are going to take another look at it to see what's going on. And we do have the ability to report the management companies. A lot of times, you know, the POAs are volunteers, unpaid volunteers that are owners, but there are management companies. So maybe that connection needs to be made through the legal side of it, you know, the legislation, to make sure that we're holding the people that are getting paid to do the maintenance on these buildings, to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to. I've had a number of experiences since I've worked at the county where there were POAs where the management company was running the POA, and they were paying themselves as a contractor to basically do the repairs, and some of those folks were not very happy. So, and again, it's beyond, we reported whatever we saw to the Division of Condominiums and the DBPR, but, you know, it's another thing that we don't regulate. It's, you know, it's DBPR. So we do have the referral thing, and I think that's a good option. You know, we don't want to kick anybody out of their building. We don't want to take action against them. I don't even want to fine them. But, you know, the reality is we're not charging any. We're trying to help them. You know, I'd prefer not to have to do this, but, you know, how do I tell the legislature that we're not going to do what they told us to do? It's got my name all in there. It says building official. Sorry, keep going. I'm in the
That's
weeds.
all right.
All right, we got some examples. Next slide, go ahead. City of Boca, and they adopted ahead. They were part of the original League of Cities group where we were drafting a model ordinance. We came up with a League of Cities model ordinance that basically suggested how to go about it. So I don't know, I gotta talk to them and see if they did the electric. There's no electric in the state law. Boynton Beach adopted subsequent to the new law. They have timelines and they're running fines. I like the bullet point number 1 under Jacksonville. You didn't register. Now that's kind of like, are you hiding from us? You know, I take that a little bit personal. You made me go out and find you. And how many of that 100 is that? I don't know. But, you know, I'm feeling a little bit like people are hiding. Collier County, there's a lot of good examples there. So here are our options for compliance. Code compliance magistrate, we can go on record, you didn't submit a phase 1 report. And then we can notify the Florida Division of Condos. Hey, this condo didn't submit a phase 1 report. You know, the problem is, who is it going to be? Is it going to be the president of the condo, or is it going to be the management firm? Notifying individual unit owners is an option, but I don't think that's a viable one. There's 25,000 units affected by this law. And you talk about a code enforcement nightmare, and you know, I don't know they have the ability to make improvements to the common elements anyway. Sorry. So, I mean, we're going to try and do our best. We're not going to go out and inspect and make sure they're safe. We're going to have engineers do that. So our proposed recommendation, we've identified a number of folks that have not submitted anything. We would like to send a non-compliance notice, put them on notice, give them 30 days. Come on, final warning, get your phase 1 report in, or ask for an extension. And if they don't respond, then we'll figure out what to do then. But that's going to be another 30 days out. And then, you know, we're prepared with code enforcement to set a special magistrate hearing just for this. But it's going to be 100 cases on one agenda. And we're going to notify condominiums. I mean, I think they need to take a stake in this. This is their show. And that's all I have. Go ahead, Mike, last slide. Thank you. Any questions you have for us?
I do. I see several lights on. Commissioner Flores, you're first, then Vice Mayor Baxter, and then Commissioner Woodward.
So first and foremost, safety should be paramount. If these inspections have to be done, they have to be done. If we have 120, whatever, that are out of compliance, we need to bring them into compliance. How we get to that's, I think, a question for the board. I think that's why you're seeking guidance here today. As of today, we are 14 days past, so they, you're saying 30 days. Are we saying January 31st, or are we saying February 14th?
We're suggesting to send a letter at the end of this month, and then they'll have 30 days to come into compliance. If they don't, then they'll go the next step, notice to hearing.
So technically, we're giving them 60 days. All right. All right. And then after that, I say we put some of these fines that Jacksonville is putting up there, because sometimes if you don't put some teeth behind it, they're gonna drag their feet to come into compliance. So that's my personal opinion, but safety should be paramount. I think giving them 60 days is a little too much. But whatever we need to do to get them into compliance, we need to do that ASAP, because safety is paramount. And if something happens, this is gonna fall back on us.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Who are we sending the notices to?
The registered agent for the condo. We've done hand deliveries too, as well, to the condominium if there's an office.
I would like to see us expand who we're sending these letters to, especially, I think the owners who ultimately will have to pay the assessment, whether, or fines, or whatever we decide to do through the management company, should be aware of what's going on and help us hold them accountable, and not just send it to just the agent. And at minimum, if there's a board,
Absolutely.
send it to every member of that board at a minimum. So that's my only request going forward with these. I think that the 30 days to let them know, the 30 days to let them respond is sufficient. I'm not sure what we gain from making that sooner, but if Commissioner Flores would like to expand, I'm all ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I very much agree with Vice Mayor Baxter that I think we need to know that the owners know. There's a chance some of the people that live in these have property management companies that maybe aren't taking this as seriously as they should. So whatever we can do to make sure that the owners do know, I agree with that. I wanted to go back on slides 7 and 9, where we have the Phase 1 milestone reports. It actually says minimum criteria met. And as I understand it, these 100 or so buildings that we're talking about, we have nothing from them, right? There's not even a request for extension. There's just been nothing, right?
Total silence, that's correct.
So I do think that this should be a, I hate to say strongly worded letter, but a very clear letter that, I mean, that there's a number of over almost 500 buildings that have done what they are supposed to do. And if we have 100 that have had zero communication, that's a real problem. And we need to, however stern we can be with that, to let them know. Because we're talking the Phase 1 is a minimal inspection. And, you know, statewide, this has happened. And I know maybe for a time it was hard to get an inspector because everybody needed an inspection. But at this point, I think there's a lot of inspectors with some free time on their hands that they didn't have a few months back. So there's no excuse at this point. And for the Phase 2, there's also 107 were required to have the Phase 2 inspection after their Phase 1, but I see that 75 have not submitted. Is there also a timeline for getting the Phase 2 after the Phase 1 was required?
Yeah, Kevin Nguyen. So they have 180 days after they submit the Phase 1 that indicates there's substantial deterioration to submit a Phase 2.
So that's why we have 31 of them that are showing overdue because they've exceeded the 180 days?
Yes.
So what are we doing about those?
We're also gonna send them a mailing, similar to the Phase 1 mailing,
Okay,
for those who haven't submitted and haven't complied.
because
of
if the
clarification.
phase 2 was required, then that means something was found, potentially, at least in the phase 1 inspection. Okay,
Right.
go ahead.
So the phase two needs to be either completed in 180 days, or there needs to be a progress report that's sent to the local enforcement agency saying that they're going to have a deadline for that phase two inspection date. But when that deadline is based on that progress report. So it can be 180 days up to whatever the progress report says.
So the 31 that are overdue, have they submitted a progress report, or we'd have nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, so we're sending them a letter too, right?
We're going to
Okay.
send them a strongly worded letter, and I'm guessing we're going to look at the owners in all those buildings too, if that's the direction of the commission.
Okay, so then if I could, thank you. As far as the, just so, there's 21 of the buildings, or of the phase 2 that are showing repairs required. Just so we have a better understanding, you said not a leaky roof, but what types of repairs are required from this phase 2 reports on 21 buildings in our county? And by the way, all of this is also just unincorporated, right? None of our municipalities are a part of this.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we know what types of repairs are required?
Yeah, so we see concrete spalling, corrosion, those type of repairs need to be completed.
So significant, if you, or,
Yes,
okay.
the engineers identify as significant.
Now, once that has been identified, then they are on the 365-day clock to
They
get the
have
permit.
180 days to complete, but if they get an extension, they have up to 365 to commence.
Well, I'm assuming these 21 that repairs were required, they've completed their phase 2, is that right?
Yes, because the Phase 2 identifies the repairs that are required.
So what is their timeline? They now have 365 days to get the permit to do the repairs.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure where all these numbers are landing. So really, we have 2 sets of letters that we need to send out, one for people for buildings that have not done anything for phase 1, and another 31 that are overdue, and I'm guessing that number could continue to climb as the days tick by. So are we looking to send it to all 75, or just the 31 that are overdue? Or do we know, are there some that are a week from being overdue, just to kind of get ahead of this while we're doing it?
Yeah, there are a few from overdue for the Phase 2s, but we're currently planning to send the mail to the 113 for the Phase 1, and then the 31 that are overdue for the Phase 2.
Okay.
But we could also send a reminder notice too if they're getting closer to deadline.
Okay. Well, thank you. I agree. I mean, this is about public safety, and if these findings are truly like structural integrity types of things, that we can't ignore this or just let them go. And if we have 100 buildings, I don't know, I don't think we're quite ready to publicly shame buildings, or maybe we are, I don't know. But I think people, the owners should also be aware if their building is not being properly inspected to fall into this and what's coming. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. I was thinking about trying to piggyback on the suggestion of Vice Mayor Baxter and Commissioner Flores. And I was thinking, when we go into, development, if there's major development going on, we put a sign on the property and allow people to contact and get the information. I think maybe this would be something to do for these properties, is to put a sign on them. And because, remember, this goes to if we mail to the owners, a lot of these folks have renters, and that they need to know that their building is not in compliance. And I think potentially will get people's attention not to have a sign on their property saying this property is out of compliance for their inspections, and get their attention, because clearly part of it may be that people are not exactly aware of how to get it done. So maybe on any notification explaining where do they get the information, you have your web page created, so it links to that and that sort of thing, and so that people know what they need to do. And I assume there's a phone number that they can call where they can speak to somebody for more detailed information. So
That's what we call placarding, where we can placard a building that there's a condition that needs to be addressed. So we have stickers for that. We could use those and you just stick them on the building.
And I'm going to hold the thought for a second on that. We want to do a little more research. Certainly posting a sign or something of that sort, unlike a zoning one where you have the property owner's authorization to be on the property and post it, the agent will do it. Us doing it on private property might, there are other ways to communicate.
Okay.
To me, I understand where you're going, Commissioner,
Right.
intent-wise. Let us look through as many of those as possible so everyone's informed.
I don't know the specifics of what you all need to do.
I'm looking to our attorney, who looked a little questionable, so
No,
please type in.
I hear what they're saying, and I think it does make sense, but, we have a relatively new code on this, and there's no reason we can't amend it. If the board likes the suggestion of placarding the building so that everyone gets notice, then that's something we can certainly put in our code, and I don't think that would be a problem at all. It's the same thing as citing a building now and giving notice. So amendments can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Let us look as many opportunities and ways to provide the notification, looking through that in as many ways as possible.
Administrator Baker.
Patrick covered it. I was going to suggest giving us an opportunity to go back, because we need to look at all the ramifications of placarding that property so that we know and the board will know what will happen. I think there are ways that we can come up with on making sure everyone is aware, including buyers, because someone can be in the position that they're selling. We placard it, that could cause some unintended consequences. So we need to look at it.
Well, I'm going to pipe in for a second, and I'm all for letting everybody know. And if I don't, 113 or whatever it was, 113 haven't submitted. We don't know how many owners there are, and we don't know if those owners are in residence. But at minimum, it should be the board of directors, and not just the officers. And you can get that from Sunbiz, whoever those people are, and obviously the agents. But if we do 113 units, we're set. I'd rather be overprotective. I mean, if the board decides they want to send it to every owner, if they're not in residence, then that sometimes that letter never even gets looked at. But I think if we have a way to, without trespassing, correct? Without trespassing, give notice somewhere in front of the building, I think that's very necessary and very doable if we have the legal way of doing that. And Patrick, thank you for looking further into that, because it's necessary. These folks need to know they're in violation, and chances are the homeowners have no idea. And chances are the board might not even know if it's just the agent. So at least the board, not limit it to the officers, but the whole board, and you can get those names off of Sunbiz. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Yeah, those are some good points. We have a Florida bar section of condominium law that is impressive. We have more condominiums in this state than any other state in the country. So we have a plethora of laws that apply to condominiums and HOAs. So I would suggest that our county attorney reach out to the Florida Bar's section on condominium law, because this is serious, and we want to make sure that we're not going to be in conflict with that provision of the laws on condominiums. Secondly, this is only county, and how about their cities and municipalities? What are we doing with regard to our condominiums? And I'm looking at the League of Cities representative here. I would guess that the majority of condominiums in Palm Beach County are along the coast, situated in municipalities. I have a number in my district, but I don't represent a city. But I do know, have we reached out to the municipalities with regard to these reporting statistics and compliance? I see the representative from the League of Cities, Mr. Rudder.
Mr. Radcliffe, you want to come on up?
Yes,
Morning, sir.
Richard Radcliffe, Executive Director for the Palm Beach County League of Cities. We have a wonderful partnership that we've done going back to 21. Most of our municipalities have taken this very, very aggressively. We worked as a team together. We had multiple meetings. In preparation for this meeting, I called out, Boca has no one out of compliance. Highland Beach, everybody, Highland Beach, your district, everybody is in compliance. Some people are almost in recertifications. The cities, you have Rhode Island, but you're right. A lot of the cities close to the coast took this very, very seriously. So I could only find 2 people, and I only did a handful. But I think there is one person not compliant in Tequesta and Ocean Ridge, and it's not one person, it's one community. And the same thing in, I believe, Ocean Ridge, but that may be falling under. But they were very, very aggressive with it.
Could we have a report, head of this committee here, if we could have a report on how the municipalities are doing with regard to compliance, because as we know, all of the ones are, every condo over, I believe, 2 stories needs to be in compliance. And we have a number of aging condominiums on the ocean. And I'd love to know how our municipalities are doing, and if you could give a report to, at some point, when you have it, to the Board of County Commissioners, so we know those who represent municipalities that they are in compliance. And then with regard to these mailings to our registered agents, I'd like to see a follow-up on this, Mayor, because we have sent certified letters to registered agents of our condominiums here. There's a number of them. And I would like to see if any report, whether they have been in compliance since mid-2024. We're going into legislative session here in March. We may have a special session on this issue, but I would certainly like to have a little more information, if you could, if that's okay, Madam Mayor, with you, so that we can see how many are in compliance and how many still need some work to be done, if I could. Thank you,
Well,
Madam.
I believe that Mr. Weiss is doing that, and I think that's what page 20 is indicative of here. But, I mean, the case at hand right now is, what are we going to do with that 113? And Commissioner Weiss, you had your light on, turned it off. We're good. I think we have, do we have any cards on this? We have one card. After the card, we'll bring it back for a motion. We'll continue our discussion, and then we will take some action. So,
Alexandria Larson.
I was down in Broward the day before my birthday. 273 condos had 1 hour to get out when they found whatever was wrong with the condo. They didn't elaborate on the radio, but I thought that was the hardest thing I ever heard in my life, because I thought, what would I grab in an hour in my house? Because if you saw my house, Commissioners, I collect a lot of crap. And it's just daunting, because there's so many mitigating circumstances with this issue. Because did the condo builder use salt water to mix the cement? There's 150,000 things I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard it too, of mitigating. I love mitigating. I love the word, because it's just, it can't be mitigated away. This can't be mitigated away. Somebody pointed out to me that there's no 8-story hook and ladders, that, you know, the heights and the stuff that's going on in our world, because we've gone crazy building in Florida. When you build a 60-story condo down in Miami-Dade County and call it a paperclip, That kind of scares me too, because just the nickname doesn't sound very strong. It's a paperclip. In Dubai, they wanted to save 30%. They let a building move because they didn't want to put the extra money in to make the building not move. This is what builders do. And I'm concerned about it because condos, like you said, somebody is trying to sell their condo and we put a thing on the door that says, well, there might be a problem. And I know everybody I talk to doesn't want to buy a condo ever again. They don't even want to think about a condo. That's what I'm worried about. And you're hitting so many good points today. But like I said, I mean, like there's 663 buildings, 124 are not done. We've got a bad situation, commissioners, because it's like Russian roulette. It's like a dartboard. We don't even know which buildings are what, and let's hope we have the best inspectors in the world that can find the little nooks and crannies that will be a problem for these condo owners. Because I think it should go right back to the builder. If there is a really bad situation with the building, I think they should be held accountable. The people who built the building. I don't ever hear that happen. So that's one thing I'm going to throw in. Go back to the original builder and say, you know, why did you do this? Why did you cut corners? Because some of the issues are because there was corners cut, and that happens quite often in many atmospheres of our lives. So I'm not blaming anybody, but I would go after the people who originally built the building and have them justify how it happened. And that's just a thought, you know, because for some reason, the builders that build these things don't ever come into play.
No more public comment? May I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Right now, the motion is,
I believe, unless something changed while I was out, we're going to send a notification to all the residents.
right now, where the motion is to seek direction, and that's what we're doing. So let's clarify what we want. And Commissioner Baxter, Vice Mayor Baxter was stating the motion in her words.
Correct. So how I understood it, we will at minimum notify every owner of the property. You guys are also going to be looking into the potential legalities of putting a placard on the building. With the notifying them at the end of this month, giving them 30 days to respond. And I believe that was most of what you were asking. Did I miss anything? Thank you.
Is that for phase 1 and 2 that are overdue?
Both phase
Yes.
1 and phase 2.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so the motion was, so I have a motion, and the motion included identifying, sending a letter to all of the homeowners of this 113 buildings, plus the ones that are overdue that have
On the
already
phase
been
2.
notified. Do I have a second on that? Got lots of lights on, okay.
Madam Mayor, did we want to include a provision that failing response will send it to code? Is there a step 2 on this?
I would say that's what this precipitates. So the letter will go out. If we don't receive the letter, they don't move to that point, it would move to code for those that are non-responsive after this last letter and the information, excuse me, to all the property owners within the non-respondent buildings.
So,
Then we would go to code only after that.
all right, so this is also approval to go to code?
Okay, 1 second. You may, 1 second. So basically, what we're doing right now is, we've just added who we're notifying, but the rest of this slide, the response and non-response, we're keeping the same.
Yes.
We just extended who's getting it.
We've expanded who is going to receive the letter. I've got lots of lights on, but before I take our commissioners, I'm going to go to Administrator Baker.
I just simply wanted to add, and I'll give staff direction to do this, to send out the reminder notices as well. So it's not just the people that are behind, but to also notify those who will be running up on the deadline. This is what you must do, and as a result, if you don't, these actions will need to be taken.
And when we're sending the reminder notice, and this is more of a discussion for the board also, the reminder notice is obviously the agent has responded. That's why we're getting, they just haven't done their second response to us. Is that correct?
On the second.
The reminder notices, not
On the
just
second
on the
group.
phase two.
Yeah, on the phase two, yes.
Okay, do we want to expand the notification to include the board on those? Or do we want to just leave it as the agents? That's another question that we can discuss.
Right, everybody.
I think we were taking the approach on the phase twos in that direction. We're going to, for the notification, treat it the same way as the phase ones.
Send it to everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
consistent.
Commissioner Sachs.
I thank you so much, because I'm chomping at the bit here, and I'm going to talk to the attorney here. The State of Florida Division of Condominiums has a role to play here. And I want to be sure that we as a county comply with the regulations set statutorily with the State of Florida Division of Condominiums. So I want to be sure, I'm looking at my staff here, I want to be sure that whatever we do, we make sure that we comply with the State of Florida Division of Condominiums. I do not want to be involved in a lawsuit with condo lawyers. Not that I know any, but they can be, and I want to also be sure, we are Palm Beach County. We also include cities. So what are we doing, Mr. Rutter, or, help me out here, legally, if we're going to do this for unincorporated Palm Beach County, do we not need to include the Palm Beach County as a whole?
We don't have that
So,
authority.
Do we have, and I don't know the answer, Mayor, do we not have jurisdiction as a county board with a city? I don't know the answer to that.
I do, they don't. Go ahead.
Commissioner, the short answer is no, we don't. We have the regulatory authority only over unincorporated Palm Beach County. You heard Mr. Radcliffe say it, we work very closely with them and continue to do so, but each city will handle things their own way. We have some cities that adopted their own ordinances before the legislation was enacted. Every city's doing it their own way. We'll continue to coordinate with the
good.
league, but they will handle
That
it.
makes it simpler for us then. You're only going to deal basically in unincorporated areas of the county in terms of this. I just want to be sure that before we take any action other than what the vice mayor recommended, which is letters and things like that, that we notify and stay in compliance with the division of condominiums, because I know this is an issue that's going to be discussed starting March. Committee meetings are starting soon. This is like top of the list for our legislature to look into. So I want to make sure that we do everything just in compliance with the state, because the state regulates condominiums. We regulate their safety in many ways, I'm sure, but I want to be, because I don't want to be in a lawsuit here, and I want to make sure that we're in compliance with the Florida Division of Condominiums. And these letters that the vice mayor recommended, I actually, is a great idea, as long as we're in compliance with the state on this.
And Commissioner, we absolutely will be. You'll note one of the bullets in there is notify the state.
I
You
see
heard-
it on the very
You heard
end.
Doug state earlier, we've got some that we have found that are not registered. We will be notified when we find them to bring that about. So we will be in compliance, and we're probably going to the next level, identify for the state those that have not registered that are on their database.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Almost everybody's lights are on. Commissioner Woodward, then Commissioner Flores, then Vice Mayor Baxter, then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Just so I understand, the motion that we're doing now, it's for the letters. Are we going to have a second discussion on what are the compliance consequences or non-compliance consequences? Is that a separate issue or like a different motion? As as Commissioner Flores asked for the teeth, what are the teeth in
So,
this?
if this direction moves forward, as it moved into Code World, I'll call it, it would follow the typical process there. Appear before magistrate time, a magistrate might allow time to cure, might begin fines, any number of ways. I'm sure it would be in response to the petitioner, the applicant, their efforts to date. If it's someone who wasn't offering much by way of activity to meet the requirements, might not fare as well in front of a magistrate, but the magistrate will address it at that point. The fining and things of that sort are in our typical, there's no a different level of fines. It's in our typical spectrum that's out there, but it will move like any other code case would in that world.
Do we have the opportunity to actually specify this type of noncompliance on, and put, I mean, I was looking through your examples, everything from, you know, a notice of violation to 60 days in the county jail in Collier County. I mean, there's a lot of different, that's been put out there, and I'm assuming that's not their code for everything. Is that the code that has been adopted due to this?
Other local governments have done chosen other paths. If the board directed us to consider something different, create something of a specific fining process, we would need to amend our structure and make that available for a magistrate, but the board could give us that direction and we can make the modifications.
I would like to give that direction this is specific, and I know that we're working to make sure that all the owners are notified, but honestly, if you don't know about this and you live in a condominium, I think your condominium's under a rock. Everybody knows about this. This has been in discussion for years. So as whether or not they know if their building is in compliance, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They may not know that, but everyone knows that this legislation has passed. So the buildings, we need some teeth in this, and I would like to give direction to have a very specific code enforcement that's on if you do not comply, if you're not even doing your phase one, like bring us something that is specific to this issue.
If I may, Commissioner, I'll pull back up that slide, ask Mike to pull it, just use it as an example, the city of Jacksonville, as a for instance, just to offer some measure of discussion, so when we bring back a ordinance change to you, the blanks are filled in. If something, just look at it.
Yes, city of Jacksonville is a good one.
If that structure, certainly when the board gets in front of that, you can change the numbers, but if that's a structure the board likes, we can initiate that preparation.
And I'm assuming this was specific to this issue is why they formed all of this, and I think we need to do the same thing.
They identified them specifically to the phase ones, the phase twos, et cetera, yes.
So does that something we need to add to this motion, or is that just direction to be given for them to bring us back an example?
Let's make it separate, motion with a vote so that we all know what we're going to do. We're going to create an amendment to an ordinance or create an ordinance so that we have a nice, tight, specific code to address this.
Okay, so we need to finish the current motion.
Let's
and then
finish
I'll
the
do
current.
that one. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we will finish the current motion, come back and do the compliance fines. Okay, Commissioner Flores.
So Commissioner Woodward stole my thunder. No, that's good. That's good. I like that we're on the same page. But I believe there's only a motion. Is there a second at this point?
We had a motion from the vice mayor and a second from Commissioner Woodward, including notifying everybody.
Right. So I agree with all of that. And then I guess the next conversation I want to have is sort of mimicking what Jacksonville has done here. I'm not really sure about the $50 for the first, but maybe going to $100 there. Because I think the building official mentioned that was kind of sneaky how they haven't even registered some of these building owners. So that's a concern. But yeah, it should include the 120 plus the 31 that are in phase 2 that are overdue. And actually, it should include everybody by up to January 31st when these letters go out. That's out of compliance. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
I'm actually going to hold my comments until we talk about the compliance things. Did you want to take a vote and then move on to that, or how would you like to handle it?
Commissioner Weiss still has his light on, so.
Thank you, Mayor. My question, or actually my request would be also that we get a list of these condominiums that are not complying, because sometimes we have relationships with them, and if we know that they're not in compliance, we can reach out to our contacts there and hopefully get them to take action.
Thank you. So why don't we take a vote on the motion that's on the floor? I don't think we need to reread it. I think we all know what it is. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Now we have a second discussion on the table. Does anyone want to make a motion about the fines?
So I would like to make a motion that we have I guess we're going to have the discussion, but then staff would bring back to us the code enforcement or code compliance fines related to this issue. Is that
So
sufficient?
what do you want? Well, do you want them to bring something back, or do we want to set something now? Oh, hold on. I got lots of lights on. Administrator Baker, I'm going to go with you.
Can we set it now, or is this something that we need further research?
What I just heard was that you wanted to pretty much follow Jacksonville, with the exception of them not registering with the state instead of $50, $100. And we could possibly bring that back, and I'm looking at legal as a resolution, just for this particular purpose, because then it would not impact our other fines that's in the code. Does that
Okay.
work?
We can certainly bring it back. I'm not sure if a resolution's going to be appropriate without us taking another look at it, but whatever, we'll bring a draft back to
Yeah.
the board.
We
whenever-
have fines already in resolutions, so we've got some fines that are in
Right, but we
resolutions
have
and
to have
others in ordinance.
something
Yeah.
that
We'll work
turns
together.
this over to the code enforcement fine process.
Understand.
So that's the first step. So there's two steps. So
guess my
it's not
motion
a
would be-
problem. We can make it happen.
Yeah.
We will make it happen.
So then the motion would be to follow the city of Jacksonville's code compliance examples with the recommendation to increase, as Commissioner Flores, to $100 a day with the failure to register with the state. That is the motion.
So I have
I'll
a,
second that.
first, I have a second from Commissioner Flores. I have lots of lights on. Vice Mayor Baxter, do you want to go now?
Yes, I had questions about the compliance aspect of this. So the failure to register, is that also the 30 days? How long are we giving them to register?
I think we'd have to notify them and give them time to register, but the reality is they're already in default. The state of Florida gave them a mandate to register by January 1, 2023. I'm trying to remember what the original regulations said in 2017, but I think that was the deadline. So they're already 2 years out.
Which is terrible, but if we're gonna start fining daily, I would like kind of a date certain, and if we haven't solidified this code and we're bringing back a draft and we're doing all that, maybe we can just pick a date.
I would respectfully suggest that the magistrate, if it goes to the magistrate, gives them time to comply. And theoretically, under 162, it's reasonable time to comply by the special magistrate. I'm
Yeah, the
looking at
magistrate typically gives people lots of time.
I'm talking about when the assessment of $50, now $100 a day starts. I'm not talking about,
Right, and normally the way the code process works is that we notify people, but there's no fines assessed until they actually make it to a magistrate. And then the magistrate will give them more time.
to comply.
Yes, and it
Okay.
could be a significant amount of time. It will depend on the situation. For example, if the manager appears before the magistrate and says, I'm in the process of trying to hire somebody, or I didn't know I wasn't supposed to register, but I'm going to register today, and all the different stories people give. So there's a lot of wiggle room here.
My only hesitation with the entire compliance thing, and I always feel bad, is that this is all going through, and as I'm sure Mayor Marino has experienced in real estate as I have, is that HOA and management companies and they can be impossible to not only get a hold of, but, you know, I'm hesitating because I don't want the residents who live in that building to get punished for the lack of competency of a potential management company. And, you know, as somebody who has dealt with them, they're not always the most compliant. So, which is why I say I like the idea of reaching out to residents to help them hold them accountable. I just don't want us to start all these fines to a building that the residents ultimately are responsible for, all going through these management companies. Now, I don't see another option, which is why I will support this today. But I don't like it. It just doesn't sit well with me that residents in the building could be the ones taking this burden on And I would like to think in a perfect world, they'd go get a better management company, right? But that doesn't always happen either. And, you know, management companies can be very expensive. So I just like to keep that in mind, that it isn't necessarily the residents who are the ones being non-compliant. It is the associations within the condominiums, but ultimately these fines could fall on the backs of the residents. So let's just keep that in mind when we start talking about large fines and daily fines and them stacking up. And we know that we do waive some after they come into compliance, but it's never 100%. And the larger the fine, the better the number of percentage waived or not made to pay looks better. So again, I'm going to say I will support this today, but I really ultimately, I don't like it.
Let's just remember, though, if there is no fine, no one will have the impetus to comply. So there has to be some, as Commissioner Flores, some teeth to it. So, and the magistrate will be the one at the end who will dictate that. So Commissioner Sachs, you are next.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we want compliance. We changed the name of our code group from code enforcement to code compliance. This is in my district you're talking about. You're not talking about condos on the ocean. You're not talking about high rises on the beach. You're talking about Century Village, damn it. And these folks having a hard time paying assessments because maybe their HOA leaders did not let them know they needed reserves. What's going to happen? They can't pay their assessments today. They're moving out. And so I think that we have to be, what Commissioner Baxter said was on point. We want compliance. These are our seniors who are living in many of these communities. I'm not talking about big old high rises on the beach. Many of them are investments from folks who don't even live in Florida. I'm talking about our seniors living here in Florida in the county. And what we want to do is make sure they comply. What we want to do is not that grandpa and grandma that's living there in Century Village. They don't have any way to enforce these laws and rules. It's their HOA leaders. So as Commissioner Weiss said, I want to know which condominium groups are these that are not in compliance. I'll write them a damn letter and I'll be there, because these structural defects must be corrected. But I'm not going to go along and charge. Hell, Mike, you know, Sachs, Grandpa and Grandma Sachs lived at Century Village, Social Security. So what I want to do with our county commission is I want to be able to assist. First of all, teeth are good, but a little bit of honey there is good too. So let's help these folks get into compliance without giving them more fines that they have to pay or move. Let's help them out. That's what I like to see our role is. Let's make sure they get into compliance. We have 113 that have not submitted. Is that correct, Mr. Weiss? 113 buildings that have not submitted. Let us know. There's only a few of us who represent these condominiums in the county. And I'm a county commissioner. I want to be able to help them. And I have a feeling, I don't know which ones they are, but I have a feeling that they're not necessarily the wealthier ones. So let me help them get in compliance. Let's give them a little time to get in compliance before we begin to assess fines. Because we're only going to make it worse. We're going to have more people leaving because they can't afford the assessments, in addition to the fines. So that's my suggestion. I agree with Commissioner Weiss and Commissioner and Vice Mayor. It says Part 3 compliance. Let's help our people get into compliance, stay in their condominiums, their retirees, especially those in the county, and see what we can do to help them out. Whatever way we can do this through our means, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do for our people. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores. And then Commissioner Powell.
So I agree with everyone's comments here. I don't think anybody here wants to willingly assess fees on anyone. But unfortunately, if we don't do it this way, I don't think a lot of people are going to take it seriously. And I've seen it in my municipality where you start sending letters, strongly worded letters, and nothing happens. And so you start finding these people. I think we got to remind ourselves that I think we're talking about two different issues here. One is our responsibility to keep people safe. And that starts with doing the initial inspection. Without an inspection, we don't know whether the building needs repair in a few years or if it needs repair immediately. So we need to get people to comply, and unfortunately, I think we definitely need the teeth, which is why I recommend and I second that motion to impose some of these fees. Now, I don't think we should begin imposing the fees retroactively because we weren't fair and we never notified anybody. So I think it needs to be effective March 1st, which if I'm understanding correctly, that's the time period giving them the additional 30 days. So I think that if we're going to create these fees, they should become effective March 1st if they're not in compliance. And the other thing that I want to make sure of is that we are able to put this in the letter, that we are going to start imposing fees. So I want to notify them. And when it goes strongly worded means if you don't comply by March 1st, whatever date we choose, this is what's going to happen. But at the end of the day is to make sure that they get these inspections done so that we know and the residents know, because I bet you if they don't do the inspections, the residents don't know whether that building is safe or not. And then we have 31 that are overdue in phase 2, which if they're overdue in phase 2 means that there is some remediation that needs to happen. And those have been flagged as, hey, we need to get this done. So these are even more severe than phase 1. So that's why I think Jacksonville, did that a little bit, quickly. It looked like they find them a little bit more in phase 2 than phase 1 because they've already identified there is an issue. So I think that's why I'm asking for the teeth behind this, because I want to make sure that people comply. I want to make sure that we keep people safe, and it's not about finding people. And I've seen many of these cases when they go to the special magistrate and they have a good reason for not complying or whatever it is, like they didn't have enough money in the funds to pay for the inspection. The magistrate usually removes those fees, but I don't want to start assessing the fee until March 1st. And if they have a special issue why they couldn't get it done by that time frame, let the magistrate handle that. Thank you.
Patrick?
I do want to clarify a point. When we're talking about fines, I don't want the board to think that the fines would begin on a certain date. We would send it out. If they were not compliant following this direction, it would be set for a magistrate. A magistrate most likely is going to give more time. Only when they have not complied with a magistrate's orders would the fining begin. So we've got one deadline, we have a second deadline, there would be a third deadline, if you will. Then it would start. So it's not retro to a certain date, it's not set on that point. So we couldn't agree more. We would love 0 to be the issue. But to many of yours point, having some measure of teeth, and hopefully yes, and including the information in the letter, we will do that.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm looking at the proposed PBC compliance staff recommendation. I think it's rather excellent. It says, send compliance notice, January 31st, 2025. Allow 30 days to respond. Response within 30 days to include either milestone report or request an extension up to 60 days. I mean, that's a lot of leeway. I don't hear or see anywhere in here where it even starts on the lines of the fine. If no response within 30 days, it's unacceptable that we have 113 that have not responded. That's unacceptable. That's not how you do business. So, what has to happen is something needs to happen where there's teeth. I mean, unfortunately, we're in a world where people do business, and if you don't respond and it's life or safety, or life and safety, something needs to happen. But initiate code compliance notice of violation. Set for the next available special magistrate hearing. We'll set a compliance deadline. So we're jumping. we're further down the road, further down the line, still no fines. And if they're not compliant with the special magistrate deadline, fines will begin and the CBA unsafe case initiated. That's so far down the line. I hear a lot of pontification with regard to or parlaying on how we should move forward, but it's clear to me. I think staff has a wonderful proposed recommendation, and I would recommend that. I mean, it's just me, that we move forward with what's here. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would, in the discussion on the Jacksonville, that we're going to be copying what Jacksonville's doing, completely agree with Commissioner Powell that we're being extremely generous here. I think it's slide 24, all of that should be part of this letter, and all of it down to, what happens if you fail to make the inspection documented repairs. Because if we have 113 buildings that haven't even responded for anything on phase one, I don't want them to just know, hey, this is going to be your fine if you don't complete phase one. They need to know every step that comes after that. You've got to do phase one, and if you don't have to do phase two, check off the rest of it, you're good to go. But if you have to do phase two, know that the rest of this is coming for you, so that they have the full timeline of everything. It's the way we're being rather generous, the magistrate probably will too. This could still be another year-long process for some of these condominiums, but they need to know if it drags out that far, these are all the fines that are waiting for you. Get this done. This is about inspections. Like, this is not where, there's a lot of code compliance that comes before us that can be subjective. This is not subjective. This is about public safety. And that's why this all came to be, and whether or not we like how it got here and where we are, this is what it is. These buildings need to be inspected. So let them know that this is what's coming. My question, is there a way that these fines, when they come, go to the HOA or the property management company, and it's not something that they can shuffle to their residents if they are the ones that fail to comply? Is that allowed?
Let us look at the use of those funds. I got some questions in my head, but let us take a look at that.
Okay, I'd like to know if there is a way that we can do that, because if the property management companies are just sitting on their duff, not doing their job, then they should be the ones to pay the fines.
Ms. Kaufman?
We'll take a look at it, but I'm not sure that that's the appropriate solution, but let us look at it.
That may be the homeowners doing that, but yes, I like the idea, but I'm not sure.
If I could, just because we do have some of these, they're very senior citizens who are maybe, are getting to the point in their life to battle with the property management company on who's responsible. I wouldn't want my mother to have to battle with this right now. And it's like, if we can hold them accountable, I would like to.
I hear that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. My initial thought is that there's a contract between the homeowners association and these management companies, and I'm not sure that that's not a contract issue versus an issue for us to try to jump into the middle of that contract and force the management company to do their job, because that basically is their job, and that is what they were hired to do.
And if they are out of compliance, who holds them accountable? Is that the state?
That's a contract issue, so that would be the homeowners association. And it's very difficult because we do have people on that are volunteers, that are not well-trained, who are trying to run a business. And that's a tall task in some situations. So let us take a look at it.
Are you referring to the board or to the actual, because a lot of these have
the board,
a separate management company
Correct.
that they hire.
Oh, yes, but I think many of us have been involved in these types of situations, and a lot of times the management company is not as active as perhaps they should be, and they let the board try to, in fact, that may be part of the reason this legislation passed, because, there weren't adequate warnings about accumulating reserves necessary to take care of expenses, even though homeowners didn't want the assessments. So there's a lot involved here. I think that Commissioner Sachs is advised to make sure that we talk to the Florida Bar section of condominiums is an excellent advice, and we will look at that, and we will consider whether there's perhaps separate legislation or ordinance or something that we can do that would hold responsible these management companies if they fail, or as part of this, if they fail to do the responsibilities. I don't know I don't know about that, but we'll look at it.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores, your light is on.
So, going to Commissioner Woodward's point, I think ultimately the people that are held liable are going to be the board members who are technically the ones that are, elected or put in that position to make these decisions. So, my point, the reason I'm saying is that I think that if we have access to these documents to know who is a board member, that we should notify the board members in addition to whatever address they provide. I don't know if we have access to those records, but if we do, I think all of them, if you're a board member, you should be receiving this letter. The other thing that I'm gonna request from staff is when you draft a letter, if we could get a copy of it, and then if you can also give us a list per district of whatever condos or whoever my District 3 are out of compliance, so that we can work that ourselves too. Thank you.
Thank you. And we can only hope that they have officers and directors insurance for the members of the board. But again, if they may not, and a lot of HOAs and COAs are folks that are retired, and that this is a volunteer position for them, and they hopefully they made the best choice when they hired a management company, and hopefully non-performance is part of the management company's contract, and that's where, if there are fees and assessments that go along with this, hopefully that can be addressed in the contract. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Thank you, and I hate to belabor the point, but this is a big deal for me when I was in the legislature, is condominiums. And 113 have not complied. They're in the county, they're not in any municipality. When we assess fees against a condo, and I want everybody to hear me now, it doesn't go to the volunteer HOA guys and gals, okay? It goes to the people who live in those condominiums. I don't represent condominiums on the beach. I represent condominiums where grandparents live. And I would like just the opportunity. Give me these names. I know Commissioner Weiss wanted them as well. He represents Century Village, I believe, West Palm Beach. I represent Century Village in Boca Raton. Let's see what we can do to work with them to make them in compliance, because, as the mayor said, this is a big issue. This is about safety. We're not talking about getting your antenna off of the roof. We're talking about structural defects. They need to be in compliance. But we want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to be heard. And maybe our legislature will have some reserves to help these folks pay so that their building that they've been retired in can be structurally sound. I don't want to give it up to a magistrate. I've been practicing law 40 years now. I always left it up to the judge to give me a break. I want to be in business. So I think we need to give our folks opportunity, give them a break, get those HOA directors in compliance, make sure those buildings are structurally safe. I want them safe. My people live in those, and I want to make sure they're safe. So give us an opportunity, if you could, to work with condos that are in our districts and see if we can get them in compliance. Those that aren't, we're going to slam them. But those that are, let's see what we can work with them.
We have that list and we'll provide it.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table that we still haven't voted on. I think we've had a very lively and complete discussion, and staff knows where they're going, correct? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Now, we have several more items on our agenda. One of them is...
Mayor?
Yes?
Sorry, we've got a little bit of a second half on that discussion. I want to follow
Well,
up
the
on
fine.
board direction on creating a fund to potentially help condos on the assessments. You remember a few months ago, direction was given by the board to, for the county administrator to take a look at that. I think we would tell you there are a lot of potential challenges out there doing it. You have a Miami-Dade that does have a program in place. They apply, income levels and a number of restrictions otherwise, a lot of different pieces. There would certainly be a lot of questions about how far we would go. We've had a lot of discussion about just what's in the report and how far they go. Recommendation from us would be minimally, we heard the discussion about maybe a special session, maybe taking it up in regular session with the legislature. Hold off on any direction on that till we get through the regular session and see if anything is changed in statute, if any programs are enhanced, something of that sort, but not to move forward with anything immediately.
Thank you. And just for clarification, Miami-Dade has a surtax program that those dollars are coming out of, so they have a dedicated funding source for that, so, which is something that we do not have as a county. Okay. Vice Mayor Baxter, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. To follow up on that, so this is actually something Commissioner Bernard had brought to the board and wanted to see us create kind of a pot of dollars and a potential program and what that would look like to help people stay in their homes if the assessments were, unaffordable to them, because it costs us roughly $35,000 to $45,000 in services and wraparound services and so on for every homeless person we have. So to the point of, we have a lot of people that are in Century Village, that are in lower income areas, that live in condos, that could really use some assistance. And there was two different ways that we could look at this, but at this point, we had talked about low interest loans, or we had talked about potentially giving or matching dollars. We had brought up the My Safe Florida program has a similar thing in resiliency that they pay out, and maybe potentially we could look at a program that mimics that. But for, they have to pay in before they get $1 back, and we can actually make sure that the dollars are going where they said they went, so on. Because this could ultimately save the taxpayer dollars if we're not putting people on the street, having more homeless, so on and so forth. So that was, I think, part of that bigger discussion. And so I don't think right now we're ready to set that, but if you need direction to bring that back, maybe with some more parameters, and let us decide on it at a later date.
If I may, I think, let's see what the legislature may or may not do. We'll have a much better idea then. They may make modifications to condo recertification, may not make it. We don't know. And I think this board would be in a better position to know once we have it, we've absorbed whatever legislative changes, and then come back to you and talk.
Yeah, I think this is a discussion to be had after session is over. Thank you. Administrator Baker.
We'll also follow up and continue to work with our building officials within the municipalities, so we actually know how many units we're talking about when you decide if we're going to move forward with anything, so we know what the fiscal impact may be in the long run. So I will continue to work with Richard, and I do have to give kudos to the cities for working with us when we put the call out for building officials to look at this and work together. Prior to the state legislation coming down, the cities came to the table. Their building officials came to the table, and staff has been working with them for a number of years. So we'll continue to work with them, try to find out where their buildings are, who's in compliance, who may need assistance. But we really won't know that until further down the road when they decide what needs to be done and assessments are set.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Very briefly, I just want to make sure, Ms. Baker, that's excellent, so that we all will receive from staff notices, or at least a list of condominiums in the cities as well as in the county who are not in compliance. There's 113 in the county, but I'm sure that my colleagues would like to know which condominiums they need to work with to make sure that would that be all right, Ms. Baker?
We're going to work with them, but of course we have no authority over them. So if they are being cooperative, yes, and I do believe they will be. So we'll get you that list if possible.
But the list from, we can only generate our information as quickly as possible, and that we will get as soon as possible if it's not already in our inboxes. And Mr. Radcliffe will work with the League of Cities and his members to get us a list of the cities that have high rises that might be in this situation.
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, so we've given you direction. Now it's 11:45. We have we actually have 2 more items on our 3 more items on our regular agenda. So let's take up 5C1, which is Engineering and Public Works. Staff is looking for a motion to adopt a resolution. Does anyone need a presentation? Ooh, we got a so moved from Commissioner Flores and a second. Do we have a card? We have a card on 5C1.
Alexandria Larson?
Ms. Larson?
I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was a commissioner who wanted to build a tunnel under Okeechobee Boulevard. I just thought you ought to know that. Somebody might still be out there thinking that, because that is a very crowded area from Flagler to 95. 95 kind of opens up, it's expansive. But when you go over those tracks near City Place, you go into, it's like putting a tomato through the eye of a needle, or maybe a watermelon, or whatever vegetable you want to pick, because they said, well, we'll just build a tunnel under there. I mean, and Florida's not good for tunnels. We got water 10 feet down. Not gonna work unless you wanted to have a submarine that goes underneath Okeechobee Boulevard. This all goes back to building commissioners, because one commissioner years ago asked how many units are on the books, because we keep putting more units on the books. So maybe we should start again with how many units are on the books. When you look out there, I look at those buildings out there when I stand on that balcony and die a little inside every time I come downtown. They call it Crane City or something because of all the cranes that are out there. And that one building is like a zigzag that when a hurricane hits that, it'll probably be in Loxahatchee. There's no doubt in my mind. But we do, with Okeechobee, please look at who's given you information or ideas, because they really did. It was right here in this building, and I'm sure Channel 20 can look it up for you, when the guy said, well, we'll just build a tunnel under Okeechobee Boulevard. So please keep that in mind, commissioners, and I thank you for your time. And you really do need a big history
just an FYI, that was Commissioner Weinroth. A couple of years ago, and any building that happens in West Palm is West Palm.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. I understand that. But what's really funny is 23 people walked out of planning and zoning in Palm Beach County, and a couple of them went to work for the city of West Palm Beach.
All righty, so we have 5C1. We have a motion from Commissioner Flores, a second from Commissioner Sacks. Did you get that? Okay. Any more discussion? Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. As you know, using technology to try and improve how we manage traffic and traffic flow has been something that I've been working on for a number of years now. So I want to thank the state of Florida. I want to thank our staff and our consultants, and I want to thank our board for supporting this. And hopefully we're going to make people's lives a little bit easier getting through downtown.
And we have a pilot program right now on Hood Road at no cost to the county. This is the vendor trying out the new technology, correct?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask a question on topic, off topic that came up yesterday. When you come up to the traffic lights and the signalization that triggers, how do we check to make sure those are working properly?
Okay. At most of our intersections, we actually have cameras, we have video detection and radar detection, and also we have loop systems, which actually are inside on the ground. They're buried inside the pavement. And so if the loop systems are defective, the signal won't activate at all. Now, if the signal itself is timing is off, it may take longer to activate the signal. And so for the loop systems, we get reports every day if the signal is not being activated at all, and we go out and repair those loops. Now, the signal timing itself, we rely on the, basically on the public to help us on that, but we do survey, groups of our signals on a regular basis to check on the timing. And so it's an ongoing process.
Now, those loops, though, are they not supposed to, instead of on a timed basis, when you pull up to a light, should it not signal that there's no one at a north-south, or heading northbound, southbound, or east and west, and so it will go to the next,
It interacts with the signal itself, and so there's a timing sequence on the signal, but that timing sequence is coordinated with the loops itself. So they work in concert with each other. So it's not just the loop itself, it's also the loop and the timing of the signal.
and if the loop isn't working with the timing, then take over?
It won't activate that sequence of the signal. And so the loop is basically, probably the most, from a maintenance standpoint, they rarely actually, in terms of have problems with loops. But the timing of the signal, that aspect of the timing requires adjustment on a regular basis.
So what is the point of the loop?
The loop basically helps, basically as part of the sequence of how the whole intersection operates. The loops indicates that there's traffic at that location, and then it goes into the sequence of that signal itself.
So if there's no one at the light, will it then go to the next in
That's correct.
sequence
That's correct.
faster?
That's correct. Not set, but if there's no one at the light, there's a regular timing sequence for that whole intersection. And depending upon the day, the time of day, sometimes certain segments of that signal may take longer than normal, but it should eventually activate the whole sequence. If it doesn't activate at all, then there's a problem with that signal, and we need to make correction for emergency repairs.
How do we know if it's not working?
Well, the two aspects. One, if you think that the signal is taking too long, notify my office. You can call me directly or my
So we're relying on residents to call us,
Yes,
to let us know that it's not working.
yes. We have almost 1,300 locations that we manage for the cities, also the DOT, and also our signals. And so that's a tremendous geographic area to manage. And so we rely on our residents to help us to find out areas, because sometimes someone's doing work in that area and interacts with our signals. We don't know that until we get a complaint.
My residents let me know.
Are there sensors at the intersections?
There are video detection sensors and then the loops for the intersections.
So how will we know, so what about the sensors? Are those always working?
They should be.
And how often do we check those?
We get reports on a daily basis. Basically, if they're out of service or we got a fair at the intersection, we go out and make those repairs. But if the timing is off, then we actually get reports from basically from our staff and also from citizens saying that we think this area is out of sequence. We go and check it. And a lot of times that report is correct, and we go out and adjust that timing.
How does the timing and sensors work together?
Well, we depend upon where the location's at. Some are based on time of day. It's basically in the morning and the evening rush hour. We have, we try to keep the traffic moving. When it's off hours, then we try to make the timing equal for all those aspects of that intersection. And so now, if there's a new building or if there's traffic has changed because schools, whatever, sometimes that timing needs to be adjusted because of that. And we'll get feedback from the people who live in that area. Hey, we need to take a look at that signal because we think it's taking too long for when it's off cycle. And so we get a lot of reports like for Commissioner Weiss in terms of areas around his district. So we try to adjust when we get feedback from citizens.
But again, that's answering the question of how the sensors work with the timing. But okay, so let's try this another way, because I've heard from several people in the community, in the Department of Transportation community, I should be more specific, that we could increase our traffic flow by up to 30% if there were corrections and maintenance and certain things done inside our roads. I just want to make sure that they are operating at optimal levels, whether it's sensors, loops, timing, that all of that is perfect in addition to, because I strongly believe in these smart signals that Commissioner Weiss wants to get done, but let's also work with what we already have. So I'm asking, what I'm trying to get at is, are we maintaining them? Are we checking them? Are we making sure? Or are we just relying on residents who have complained that about everything else, about the traffic lights taking too long or too short or too anything, that's the only thing we're focusing on? Is it their complaints, or are we making sure the whole system works? Administrator Baker, do you mind? Thank you.
No, you raise a great point. So, I mean, it's a layered approach. We've got staff, we got about 60 or 70 people that do day-to-day maintenance. We also have an online system, about 500 miles of we call fiber optics, that we monitor on a regular basis on major corridors. So when there's an incident, we adjust the signals on that aspect when trying to mitigate the situation. And so we have light, we have basically, you know, the camera technology, we have the loop system to go with that, and then we have our timing sequence that on our major corridors, we try to adjust it on a regular basis. But when there's construction activities, we try to adjust to mitigate some of the construction activities, just like we, you know, the traffic on North Lake because of the Beeline construction. But you are correct. It's not just the citizens complaining, but that's part of our input in terms of as we trying to manage the system. But we have an active staff that on a regular basis, even on the weekends, we have a 24-hour team crews that monitors the system on a regular basis. So if we get a complaint or someone hits a traffic signal, whatever, we'll go out and try to make those emergency repairs.
So not to belabor this, I think we need to follow up with some more conversations
Sure.
with other people on how we can make sure that we are using what we currently have to the optimal levels and what that might look like. So thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am, I agree with you totally. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, I agree with Commissioner Baxter. Maybe we do need some type of efficiency assessment where we can, and even we can know, I've heard people say the same thing, well, you know, we can increase traffic flows by 30%, but if there's no assessments that's been done, and henceforth, that's why we got the countywide transportation master plan that's coming up, maybe that'd be helpful. I also, I'm glad that you brought up the fact that residents can call Mr. Ricks with regard to if we're at a traffic light that we think is lasting a little bit too long. Thank you for letting me know that. I will be taking note, and you'll probably get some calls because I've been at some traffic lights. I heard you say you manage some of them for the cities and the county?
Yes, ma'am. We manage basically all the cities except for the city of Boca Raton, the town of Palm Beach. All the other cities we manage, including the DOT signals. So there's about the 1,300 intersections that we manage. 400 are DOT signals on DOT roadways that we manage. They pay us for that, but we manage under one combined network.
That's excellent. Thank you, Mr. Ricks. I'll probably be giving you a few calls. I need to get your cell, so. But I also just want to point out that, you know, while I was in Tallahassee, that, you know, this issue with regard to traffic lights, and this particular appropriation was sponsored by me on behalf of the county, so I did want to just note that I'm looking forward to the implementation and to see. I come in from, luckily, I don't have to get on I-95, luckily, but I do travel or traverse Okeechobee Boulevard to get in sometimes, or 45th Street. This might be an excellent program for 45th Street as well, but we'll get through Okeechobee first, and I'm looking forward to seeing the success of this particular program and then to be able to expand it. So thank you. We're looking forward to implementation. I did want to just thank you for letting me know who to contact when I'm sitting at a traffic light. Sometimes I'm sitting at a traffic light, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and the light is an hour long. But this is helpful, and I believe that this is going to be good for the county and cities as well. Yes, Mr.
Let me just add one item, just because the Vice Mayor just brought up a brain thought, and you also brought it also. In addition to just doing that 13 signals on that 1.9 miles corridor, we're also going to have that same consultant give us a overall assessment, looking at the technology that's out there for traffic systems, and it will be a presentation to the board in terms of way to look forward outside that project itself.
Thank you. And I'll point out, as it relates to traffic, there's the challenging, I know going downtown West Palm Beach, at some point, you're able to go straight through the downtown area and hit every light and green, 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 green. One of the biggest challenges, I believe, when driving, and the frustration, other than driving south on 995, can be going from one red traffic light, it turns green, and getting to the next light. As soon as you get there, it turns red. Then, all right. So I know that can be frustrating. So I'm looking forward to this working out. Thank you, Mr. Ricks, and thank you to the staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward and then Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I am excited about this. I know Commissioner Weiss has been hard at work getting this to us, and it's going to present another option, potentially with good data that we get from it on some options moving forward. I did want to ask, what is the best way for residents to report signal problems? You said they can call, but do we have an email to send you, a phone number to call? I think people would want to know this.
There's an engineering action center that they can contact by email and a phone number, and I will provide that. I don't have the number with me, but I can provide that.
Okay, if you could send it to us, I'd like
I'll
to
do
put it
that.
in my newsletter. I think
Yes.
people would like to know about this. Maybe we share that, because I know we have done that, but I think the residents would like to know that they have an option as well. I did have one question, since we're talking about these smarter signals. I am on the Tri-Rail board, and even just this morning on Banyan coming across, I was caught at the light when it turned red. I'm first car there, and then right when it turns green, Tri-Rail is coming north, but it's not crossing, and yet the thing comes down. And I have had conversations with Tri-Rail about this, and why did the crossings come down and we get a red light when the train's not actually crossing? It's stopping at the station, and there's a number of stations in the county with roads, not every station, because some are far enough away from the intersection, but we have a number of them here. And I was told that there are smarter signal technologies that can happen with the rail that would communicate, to the intersection. And there's who pays for it? How do we get this done? I mean, that's the discussion that really has to come from this. But there is technology that exists, and it wouldn't be every crossing. It's only going to be the crossings where the road is really close to the train stop.
Right.
And anytime the train is approaching, but it's going to stop, obviously, because it's picking up passengers. Why do we have the rails come down? Why do we have red lights holding people hostage, sitting there with nothing happening? So I would like just to, if this is appropriate at this point, to give you direction to have a conversation with Tri-Rail.
We'll take a look at that.
And maybe even Brightline. I'm not, there's this, it's rail crossing technology that will communicate with our signals, but just to find out how we can improve these intersections. If the train's not going to cross, we shouldn't be stopping cars in the intersection. So that would be my direction there. Thank you.
You just gonna say something, Patrick, or?
For those watching, the Engineering Action Center number is 561-684-4012.
You want to repeat that?
684-4012.
561-684-4012 is the Action Center?
Correct.
Thank you very much.
And Commissioner Woodward, I was with you, I think, in December. You kind of set up a meeting with us and DOT and City of Delray, talking about along Atlantic Avenue. They wanted to increase pedestrian access. And so we followed with a meeting with the city, and what they're going to do, they're going to get with their consultant to define what they want for pedestrian access mobility. And then once we get that report, then we can adjust the signals accordingly. And so we did follow up in the meeting that you set up.
Thank you for bringing that up. And just to share with the rest of the board, that meeting was about, they were hoping for some of this similar technology there, but what was described, because Delray has Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, very different types of traffic, in season, out of season, if they have a special event, like the tennis is there or street fairs. It's a lot of different programming that would be required that adaptive technology wouldn't adapt to quickly enough, but we can program it. So they are actually using one of their consultants to build out a schedule, as I understand it, that would either pedestrians would take priority versus cars taking priority. So there's ways for us to do this. But again, it requires a lot of data input, and consultants are available for this, and we can program these things. So that is what's coming. It was a very fruitful meeting with FDOT, us, and the city, showing good collaboration. But I think that we're treating this sort of as a pilot, but if this one works out, I think there's a number of downtowns that could also benefit from this as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, the key thing is that the city has a consultant more to talk about the pedestrian mobility, some other thing. So they're going to task their consultant to kind of define what they want, and then we'll take that report and then modify the signals accordingly.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you, and I know I'm probably the one between us and lunch, so I'll be very fast. Transportation traffic is a big deal. I think every one of us gets complaints about it. And Commissioner Weiss is working very hard to step it up, modernize it. We're going to put together, and I'm working with staff on this, your staff, our staff, for a transportation seminar summit, like we did a couple of years ago with the Secretary of the Florida Department of Transportation. And we'll have FDOT there, as well as our staff, to discuss these issues, and everyone will get plenty of notice about it. Last time we had it at Florida Atlantic University, and we worked with those engineers, traffic engineers there. We're still working on where we're going to have it, but everyone will get notice so that you can bring your constituents there who are very concerned about traffic. Mine constituents connect directly with your office, Mr. Ricks. I thank you for that, because it alleviates a lot of the stress, conflicts that they have. So thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. All righty, I believe there's a motion and a second on the table. And if everyone is okay with that, I will take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. Now, I know Ms. Steele has arrived. We've been handed some information about animal care and control. We can take that up before we break for lunch, and then we will have the cross-departmental teams after lunch. And just comment from us, everybody okay with that? If we follow that procedure, or do you want to go to lunch now? Okay.
Can I make a...
Go ahead, Commissioner Flores.
Since we just got this information, maybe we could take it to lunch and look it over while at lunch?
Doesn't have any pictures.
I can read.
No one wants to read during lunch.
Yeah, let's have
Well,
lunch.
I just think that if we're going to get into the weeds on this, maybe we should at least read it before we discuss it.
I agree.
I'm going to look at the board and see what they'd like to do. All right, I got 2 for lunch. I've got to go directly to this. I'm sorry? Going through it? Okay, we're going to go through it. So all of those that are here for cross-departmental teams, sorry to make you wait so long. You're excused for lunch, and please come back for lunch. Don't know what time that will be. We'll see what happens when we're done with this, and then we'll set a designated time. But in the meantime, Stephanie, you want to come up? Ms. Steele, you want to come up also? Commissioner Baxter.
May I suggest at the will of the board that we've already started quite a bit of conversation on this, that maybe we have them here for questions instead of a commercial presentation? Does anyone have any objection to that?
I agree.
All righty.
Thank you, Madam.
So I've got Vice Mayor Baxter, Commissioner Weiss, Commissioner Woodward. Vice Mayor.
Hi, how are you? If you could just make sure your microphone is on so we can all hear you, please, thank you.
Yes.
What brought it to your attention that one of our veterinarians needed to get I guess, paid more per hour?
So Dr. Kramer works for multiple different high-rate shelters throughout South Florida and also internationally, and his rates have continued to go up. We've been lagging on that, and he sent us a notice that he will not do any more surgeries until he can at least get the minimal rates that he's getting at other shelters.
How many vets currently do what he does for the county?
It's hard to say because we have nonprofits that work, for instance, like Peggy Adams, and they have anywhere from 5 to 11 surgeons on at any given day when they're doing special events or they have people coming in from University of Florida. They also do a lot of training. So if you're looking at qualified, high-rate, high-quality spay and neuter veterinarians, there are very few that are in South Florida.
And how
Many of
come
them
to
are
animal
shelter.
care control on Belvedere Road?
We don't have any that are listed as high-rate, high-quality spay-neuter. We have shelter veterinarians who can do between 12 and 15 a day. For instance, Dr.
So
Kramer can do up to 40 in a day.
Excuse me. So does Mr. Kramer currently go to that location?
Yes,
So
he
that's
does.
one. Are there anyone else who does that as well?
We
Is
also
there
have
anyone?
Dr. Gagard. She comes in on occasion. She also works at Peggy Adams, so she kind of more volunteers her time, but we pay her at a minimal rate.
And anyone else?
No. Not under those contracts, no.
So we just have, so we only have,
I'm sorry, I did not hear what she said.
she said there's one, Dr. Kramer, and
And
one
Dr.
that
Gregard.
works for Peggy Adams that comes occasionally.
Yes.
But you said something, she was not competent? I didn't hear what you said.
No, she is qualified as what's called a high-quality, high-rate, or high-volume spay-neuter surgeons. Those who have that qualification can do up to 40 to 50 surgeries in a day. The average vet in a private practice will be doing between 2 and 4 surgeries a day. A shelter veterinarian can usually do up to 12 to 14 in a day.
Okay, so you have faith that Dr. Kramer knows what he's doing. He does a great job. He's been doing it for the county for a while.
Yes, he's wonderful.
And the item in front of us is in regards to just him, correct?
Yes, that is correct. He has a contract, and he has asked for more money, and that's why we came back to the board. We weren't going to increase the total amount of the contract. We would reduce the number of days he comes in to meet his requirements.
And how, so if he is getting an hourly, if we approve this, an hourly rate of $200, what do we currently pay our nonprofits that do spay and neutering for us?
We pay them by the individual animal. So for a cat, a TNVR cat, it's $75. For a dog, it's $100. That doesn't cover all of their costs. That covers anywhere from 3/4 to 90% of their cost.
And so, I mean, if we're paying him more, have we looked at other alternatives to help offset some of this? Maybe giving our nonprofits a little more to reduce the burden on the doctor needing to do 40 in a day?
We could, but they can do fewer in a day. And when we're coming into kitten season and into puppy season, it's really important that we get these surgeries done in that January, February, March timeframe, because I've already got kittens coming in. I know, Commissioner Weiss, you've dealt with this. We are having kittens year-round now.
And
Vice Mayor, to that point, though, if Dr. Kramer is coming in for a day, he's typically doing, let's say, 35 surgeries over the course of an 8-hour day. That's $1,600 for 35 surgeries, roughly just under $50, for that. At $100 a day with one of our partners, the same volume is roughly $3,500 for the same volume of surgery that they might perform, because we pay them by the animal, by the surgery.
Well, if we know that our nonprofits are we're only paying them 75% of what it's costing them to perform these operations, why aren't we paying them more?
Because I've been trying really hard to make sure that I'm staying under budget and I'm providing the best services for the lowest cost across the county. So what I do is I talk with our partners. They're willing to give a little. If we pay the majority of the cost, that works out well, but we don't give them a limit of, oh, you need to do 30 per day. For instance, I have another contract I've not been able to fulfill because I need to be able to do 35 to 40 surgeries a day to get $1,000 for the veterinarian, and those veterinarians that will work for $1,000 can't do 35 to 40 surgeries a day.
Have we lost any nonprofit partnerships because of this outlook?
No. No, we've actually gained partners. For when I started, we had one partner and we were in negotiations for a second. Now we have 5 partners. So we have added partners, and we're all looking at this as, this is a community issue. This is not something that is just an ACC problem. It is nationwide, and the only way we can solve it is our entire community working together. So all of our nonprofits are working together by not charging us what it costs them. They are in turn giving these services either free or low cost to the public who can't afford the $1,500 to $1,800 to $2,000 to get a dog spayed.
I mean, it's in the name, they're nonprofits.
Yes.
So I'm not a huge fan of the idea of this falling on them, but I get your point. Now, did they get any increase in rates from us? Because everything in the county, we know,
Yes.
has gone up.
Yes,
So when's
they
the
did.
last time they received an increase?
It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
It
'cause
went
we
from what to what?
It went from $50 for cats and $75 for dogs to $75 for cats and $100 for dogs. And that was based on them giving me the analysis of what they were actually putting into each of the surgeries, male, female, cats, dogs, and I broke it all down and averaged it. And I said, well, I think I can make a case that we can add essentially 25% more onto your costs. And it's
Okay.
still below what it actually costs them to do.
And now I'm going to change my mind a little bit here from wanting to, I guess, necessarily vote on this today, because I do think it would be important to have some of those nonprofits be able to come speak to this particular issue, especially because the meeting, I think, would be the beginning of February. We're talking a matter of 3 weeks.
The challenge with that is I'm going to lose Dr. Kramer because he books up several months in advance, and I have all these queued up. My staff are not going to be able to do the surgeries during that time to keep up with that because they're doing all the shelter surgeries. So I will lose those out, and I may have a problem getting him back. I don't know for sure, but that would be my thought, because he gave us what he considered a fair amount of notice that his rates were going up.
Maybe there's a space where we could temporarily approve this until then. I don't know how that contracts would work with the county attorney. But again, I just, we have people that have complained. And so you're selling one side of the story that it's great and kumbaya and everything's wonderful. But I've heard, yes, no, I agree. But we're focusing on what's in front of us today, being this one veterinarian. I guess I would just like to see them afforded the opportunity to speak
Well, of course.
to this as well. So we can, I'll see what my fellow commissioners have to say, but to the point of, we might vote on this today, but this is a bigger problem, so.
So the total contract amount was not changing. It was just the per hour charge was
Of what
changing.
he's getting.
So the contract amount was staying the exact same that was approved and was a rollover. We could have done this without, if he hadn't asked for more money, it wouldn't have cost the county any more. It's still not going to cost them any more, but the per hour cost has increased, yes.
So I guess I will ask Commissioner Sachs, actually. Commissioner Sachs, you wanted to postpone this to the beginning of February. Would you be comfortable with voting it on the contract as it today, and we give Administrator Baker direction to bring back an animal care and control item at that meeting that is separate from this?
Madam Mayor? Mayor? It's like Mother May, I remember. Anyways, I like your questions. I have a list of the 5 nonprofits, and I want to say Jan Steele and I have been working together on this. We had a long meeting, and we do about every month. We have a meeting with the volunteers, and Jan's always there, and she's always ready to cooperate. We're working on this, folks. I just want to give Jan a little bit of time. I've got the 5 nonprofits right here. I'm in communication with them. They do spay and neuter. I have a vet. I don't need to go to Miami to get a vet to do our dogs. I've got vets down the road from me. I'm not going to mention any names, but she's been there, and she likes it a lot. I have a vet that teaches at FAU for animal veterinarian, and he's willing to work with us. These are county animals. I don't need to go to Miami-Dade to pay somebody $200 an hour to spay and neuter an animal. Because we need that money to help Jan Steele and the animals. We've got issues there with pest control. We've got issues there with getting B&E. Tell me what that means again.
Behavior and enrichment.
And enrichment, so that we don't have enough staff to take the dogs out for a walk, damn it.
Commissioner.
So when they have to go out to be adopted, they can't hardly move. So what I'm saying is this, let's put it out for a bid. Maybe he's the only guy in 3 counties that can spay and neuter shelter dogs. I don't know. But I want to give us a chance to find someone else in Palm Beach County that can come and spay and neuter our animals. That will give Jan a little bit of breathing room for money so that we can hire people to go out and take them for a walk.
All right, Ms. Steele.
So,
Because I asked her the question.
that's it, I'm done.
Ms. Steele, question for you.
That's what I wanted to say. is
Has
that
anyone
give us a little
else,
time.
has anyone else said they'd be interested in this?
No, we've sent out emails twice over the last 4 years asking the community if anyone is willing to come on for contracts or come on and do pro bono work. And we've had some people interested, but at rates that we couldn't pay. And they could also only do 2 or 3 at a time. And one clarification is that these animals that Dr. Kramer is working on are not shelter animals. These are animals that have violation notices against them, citation notices. They're aggressive. They are dogs that we caught people doing illegal breeding. We've given them a citation saying you must get this animal spayed or neutered or else be fined. Oftentimes they're 60, 70, 80-pound dogs. Our partners oftentimes have weight limits of either 50 or 60 pounds, and they will not do certified dangerous or aggressive dogs. So he is willing to do that for us at the shelter. The public brings them in, the trappers bring in the cats. And these are not
you
owned.
already have him scheduled out, is that correct?
Yes, I do. So I would have to cancel.
And if we don't do those that are scheduled, that'll be that many more that are still out there being able to breed. And with the cats right now, and I know that a lot of the, what do you call them? Not feral cats. You can give them
Community cats.
Community cats.
Yes, ma'am.
I cannot tell you how many communities in the north end of the county on a daily basis send me emails about the community cats that haven't been, because they can tell with their ears, that haven't been clipped, and that it's actually detrimental in a lot of the communities because of the procreation and the amount of new cats, new kittens that are there. So by putting this off today, we are then putting more cats into the communities that we aren't able to catch up on already. This makes it a further domino effect down the road. And there are no shelter animals that this contract is including.
That is
These are
correct.
just animals that are coming in, as you said, that citations, they're large animals. Now, volunteer organizations, they can't possibly do this at the same rate of speed that this gentleman does, correct?
That is correct. They're doing anywhere from 12 to 15. An average shelter vet can do 12 to 15 surgeries a day if they're really good. The average personal vet does 2 to 4 a day. So when you go to shelter medicine and you get certified in shelter medicine, they teach very, very small incisions, very quick. These are animals you have to keep under anesthesia as little as possible because you have no medical history on them. You have no blood work being done on them. You don't know what's undergoing on in their bodies. So this is as quick as possible. I have actually seen some of the neutering surgeries that take 2.5 to 3 minutes for the surgeon. Now, the vet assistants do the inductions, they do the anesthesia, they do the recovery. So the whole process takes longer, but the actual surgeon's time, when he in the past has done 35 to 40 surgeries in a 5 to 6 hour day, he doesn't stop. He just goes through, he leaves after 5 or 6 hours.
Okay. And again, today, the only discussion that we should be having today is whether we are going to hire hire him at a higher rate. This has nothing to do with the conditions in the ACC. This has nothing to do with animal intake or anything of that nature. This is strictly a contract negotiation for a price.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And then Vice Mayor Baxter, I kind of continued on, but please.
I was going to suggest that without asking another question, I mean, if we move forward, is there anything that would prevent us from potentially opening up to allow somebody else to apply to do similar to what this gentleman does?
Absolutely. We could do that. I could start this afternoon and develop an RFP and put that out to bid. That's not a problem.
And I would not be opposed to that. I mean, if there are somebody out there, have it open up, let somebody else say, I'm certified, I'm qualified, and I'm willing. And that way we would know for sure who is out there in the community that could do this. But in the meantime, I do hesitate to not at least give this gentleman what he's asking for so that we're not falling behind and getting backlogged. So, thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just, and I appreciate what Vice Mayor Baxter, what you just said. I mean, what's in front of us today, the only thing that we have to make a decision on today is a contract that has to do with increasing the hourly rate. And I have no problem having a large discussion about animal care and control, about their budget, about their policies, but that's not what's in front of us today. And I'd like to contain our discussion today to what's in front of us, and that we focus on this. And I have no problem supporting the increase that's being asked for. I would love to talk about having more partners, having more availability of free spade and neuter services available throughout our community, but that's not what's in front of me. I will support this. I was going to support it on consent. I was willing to let it go for another session, but the majority of the board was willing to take it up today, and I'm happy to do that. So this has my complete and full support. Anything else we talk about besides this contract is off topic.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you both, and Commissioner Baxter, thanks for bringing up that we can put this out. My first question was, how long is this contract extension that we are voting on today? Like, what's the length of time for this contract?
It's a one-year extension.
So, okay, so either way, we need, I support moving forward with this today. It's a one-year contract extension, and the fact that we can go ahead and issue this out for future, I mean, even the contract is for the hourly rate. It does not guarantee him the number of hours in a year. So if we were to find someone else in that amount of time, maybe he gets half of this allocation,
That's
right?
very correct, yes.
Okay.
In fact, we are currently kind of third tier with him because of our pay levels, so we have a hard time scheduling dates with him.
Okay,
So
so,
if
and the
we have
max is
more-
124.8, that doesn't change. So at this
That is
rate,
correct.
it's the hourly rate, and however many hours we get from him are what we get. Second, I know that, the high volume is important when we're talking about, and that's a very specialized, but I do care about quality, and he's a known entity to us, and I don't, they're community cats, these are animals from maybe low-income families that are coming in. I don't want us to just focus on speed on that, because, all these animals matter. If they're coming into our facility, we still need to make sure that appropriate time, and I'm not saying that he's rushing through, because there's a team that works with him, but I don't want us to get too focused on how many can you do quickly, because again, we're slicing these dogs and cats open, so let's do it safely. Quality does matter, not just quantity. And again, however this moves forward, but these are community cats. We schedule these out. People trap the animals the night before or the day before in anticipation of bringing them in for this service. They nip the cat's ears, right, when they go back out, so people know, don't bring another one back in. I know sometimes they do tattoos, but this is about a bigger overall issue of just this contract. So I would like to make the motion that we move this forward as is, And with the direction that Commissioner Baxter gave with, still issuing, another RFP for maybe a second or third option, but do this contract now.
Right, thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. A motion from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Weiss. We have a card, and we have more lights on, so why don't we go on to Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been waiting for this moment. I just want to let you all know, I currently don't own a dog, so
I can change
clearly,
that.
I just want to say I don't have a dog in this fight. But I've been waiting for a minute. I've been chomping at the bit. Listen, so here's the deal. And understanding what both Mayor Marino said and Commissioner Weiss with regard to saying on the contract that's in front of us today. But this is an opportunity for education, and I know my interest has been piqued, and I'm sure some other people's have as well. So one of the questions that I have is, you've indicated that there are weight limits that some of the veterinarians who do spay and neuter deal with, and know this particular individual is dealing with 60, 70, and 80-pound dogs, aggressive dogs. And I don't want to make any assumptions, but can you just briefly explain to me why that's important to be able to deal with 60-pound, 70-pound, 80-pound animals? That's part one. Part two is the aggressive nature of some of those animals. And then part three is the ability to, which touches on what Commissioner Woodward said, complete up to 50 surgeries a day. That seems somewhat remarkable. How did he get so good at that?
All right, so I'll start with the first one. Many of our local veterinarians are not going to be able to lift, carry, and manipulate these very large dogs with the staff that they have, so they set limits. Some of them will set limits at even as low as 30 to 35 pounds, that they will not do surgeries more than that. It is a very physically trying and physically stressful thing to do a spay on, say, an 80-pound female dog. So you have to have a lot of upper body strength, a lot of dexterity. You're dealing with fine motor skill issues in an abdominal cavity, and also dealing with large weight that you're manipulating. The second one is on the aggressive dogs. Because of both the intake, how you put the animal under anesthesia and how you recover the animal from anesthesia, they sometimes will act out. Nothing wrong with that, it's just the normal thing. But if you've got a dog who is already aggressive, has already got a bite history, is very large, you need to have the kind of staff that can handle that. My staff can handle that. That is what they do. The surgeon coming in does the surgery. The part that's dangerous is the induction and the recovery. That's what my staff handle. And that needs a special type of skill and expertise to do. And the third one is on the number of surgeries. So when you do this, as this is your entire job, you get very, very good. The muscle memory is great. He can go in and very quickly do something that if you only do it once or twice a week, you're going to be very like, okay, I got to remember, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be very, very cautious. He can still have that level of caution and the expertise to come in and very quickly do it, and he ties off bleeders immediately. He is somebody that he knows the ins and outs of this, has been doing it for many years, is very quick. The shelter also gives pain medications. We make sure the animals have a broad spectrum antibiotic. We know that these animals oftentimes are not going to have additional care afterward, so we do that part of it. The part that I'm looking for from him is the surgery, and if he can do a lot of those in a day, I can put my staff in there to do the antibiotics, the intubation, the weights, the ear tipping, the tattoos, all of those other things. That's my staff can do that. But I'm looking for him to do the very technical part that a vet assistant can't. You have to have a DVM to do. And with his training and his expertise, he can do them a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. So, a couple of comments. First of all, you guys are the experts. If this is what you're recommending, I'm in favor of it.
Thank you.
You mentioned, this is a race, but if I understand correctly, he can come back again 2 more times and ask for another race in future dates. Is that correct?
He can ask for it. I won't give it to him until we bring it before the commission. So anytime he asks for more money, I need to bring it before the commission to
Right,
say,
but I
yes, we
believe in the
will.
contract, there were 2 more options available for him.
That is correct, yes.
All right, thank you. And then you mentioned that over the last 4 years, you've gone out twice.
We've gone out twice to every veterinarian in the county. So what we have also done is I've talked with all of the current and potential future nonprofits to gauge, are they in a place to do a contract? Can they meet the county requirements for insurance? Can they do the things that we need them to do for the public within that cost frame? So a lot of it is more my informal, having a chat with Rescue A or Shelter B, saying, hey, are you guys ready now? There are certain nonprofit partners that we brought on board, and they thought it's going to be easy to get vets. And then they went 6 months without doing any surgeries because they found out it was a lot harder to get vets. So what I'm doing now is waiting until they have their vets on staff and they're ready to go, and then we work on the contract, because it's not as easy to get qualified veterinarians to do it at this price point.
And we're paying the nonprofits $75 and $100 respectively to cats and dogs.
That is correct.
And they only do a handful a day.
They'll do between 12 and 14 at the bigger shelters. We have Barky Pines that oftentimes, because they're a smaller facility, they may only be able to do 7 or 8 in a day. Someone like Peggy Adams, when they do their big spay days where they bring in extra surgeons from out of town, they do up to 600 in a day. And they only charge us for the part that is under our contract.
And this vet, how many can he do in an hour?
Well, it depends on the size of the animal and the complexity, whether it's a neuter or a spay. A spay takes a lot longer. A spay on a large dog that has had previous pregnancies or has a pyometria, excessive mammary development, can take up to 40 minutes. A normal spay on a smaller dog, he can do in about 15. A neuter for a large dog or a small dog usually only takes 3 or 4 minutes. A cat neuter will take 2 to 3 minutes. A cat spay, if they're not pregnant and haven't had recent pregnancies, can take about 10 to 15 minutes.
So if I'm doing math in my head, this individual can do more in a day and technically costs us less.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not opposed to approving this today. I'm in favor. I am concerned that we're only going out 2 times in the last 4 years, and I feel like we should proceed with the RFP and expand the universe, not just to Palm Beach County, because if we have this gentleman from Miami and he's willing to provide the service up here and no Palm Beach County residents are willing to do it, then we need to go out and explore options.
Sure.
The reason, I want to echo this to my fellow commissioners, the reason I objected to this, initially I voted against having the discussion today, because I wanted to give the courtesy to a fellow commissioner that wanted more time, and I think that sometimes it's important for us to have that common courtesy. I don't think the request was out of proportion. I thought they were asking just for about 2 weeks. So that's why I went along with waiting the 2 weeks and not having the discussion today. But since we're having the discussion, I just wanted to echo what my opinions were. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason I got involved in all of this is that people were contacting me, employees from Animal Care and Control, complaining about the conditions and mostly complaining about the way we were treating the animals. And I listen, I take note. As an attorney, I took note of everybody. And then we received here in the county commission, and member notes by the public, volunteers who came in and spoke to us about conditions at Animal Care and Control. So I had a meeting at Animal Care and Control to find out what was going on. And Stephanie was there, and Todd was there, and Jan. Employees were there, as well as the volunteers. And we've been working on this. We've been working on it. What it comes down to, basically, and is we're not going to have any more meetings because we're going to have it right here in the public, is that money is scarce. And so what we were trying to do is to find out why we have to go to 2 counties to get somebody to do it. So I contacted my friends at our 5 nonprofits. I have supported these nonprofits for years. I know many of them by name. They're friends who run them. And they explained to me that they will help us. I've got emails right now from Barky Pines that they're doing the large animals, $100, $75 for cats, and that they will continue to do that. They'll do more. Susie Goldsmith at Tri-County does them for free. So what I'm saying is this. If we entered into a contract with this fellow and we can't get out, and he's the only one we have, we better bring him in. I am embarrassed that we waited until the last minute to negotiate. We're not really negotiating, we're abiding by his contract that he wants $50 more an hour when we can't afford to get employees to take dogs out and walk them in one particular kennel. So sometimes they're in there for days. So I want to take a look at the budget, but I think it's best, and I'm listening to my colleagues, let's put it in the sunshine. Let's find out the budget there. That's what I asked you to do. I have the email, you've all received it. We were going to have a meeting today. I wanted to look at the budget so we could make sure that you have enough money to hire folks to take those dogs out of the cages. I've also contacted vets, but I'm not going to do this by myself. I got my colleagues here. We're going to help us out. We all love animals, whether you own them or not. They're our animals. They're county's animals. So I know he may get one by the end. He's got no dog. I got a little dog there. I was thinking of him, with the little, what we might want to do, and I know you have a bird there too. Besides dogs and cats, they have a bird. I'm not going to tell you if the bird talks or not. You'll have to see it for yourself. Bird too. You want a bird? Okay, we'll get you the bird. It's a cute little bird. So what we'll do is this, and Ms. Baker, whatever they need with regard to continuing this contract, I think that we're not in a good negotiating position with this vet. If he's not going to continue unless we give him a $50 raise, we better do it. I'm not sure I want to continue on with him at this way that he negotiates with us. I wish we had started this a little earlier. However, I know, let's put this on for a workshop. Let's put it out in the sunshine, see what's going on, why we don't have money to hire folks to take these animals out in cages 7 days a week. So let's go ahead and reach this on a workshop. We don't really have a choice with this fellow. We need to hire him today. Give him the $50 more an hour. But I'd like to make sure from our county attorney that we're not stuck in for a year because I don't feel like I'm in a good negotiating position with him right now. If we say no, that we want to look into it for a week, he's not going to work with us anymore? Is that what it comes down to, Madam Attorney?
We could terminate the contract on 10 business days' notice for no reason.
Okay, well, let's not. Let's just keep him on, because he's doing a good job, I guess. Others will do a good job, too, but can we, and we'll negotiate in a better situation. But I think the whole idea here, the issue's not the vet, that we have to go to another 2 counties to get him. The issue is what's going on at Animal Care and Control.
But that's not what's.
No, we're not. No, we're going to schedule
Maria,
this. We're going to
Commissioner,
reschedule
can we wrap this up,
Ms.
please?
Baker, thank you, Ms. Mayor. We're going to reschedule this so we can take a deep dive into Animal Care and Control, their budget, what they need. But today, absolutely, let's get this doctor hired again at $50 an hour more, and let's continue on. But let's get a schedule so that we can find out what's really going on at Animal, and help them. It's our facility, and we need to make sure you have enough money. So I have no objection to keeping this guy on, letting him continue to come up from Miami-Dade to do these, and then let's get a schedule to help you out, okay, Mr.
Administrator
Thank you.
Baker?
I just want to be clear in case other business people vendors we do business with, we don't just increase contracts because they demand it. That's not how we operate. And we didn't operate necessarily in this manner with this particular vet. What occurred was we're looking at the volume that he's doing for the amount that is the going rate, or really less than what the going rate was. And we thought, based upon the analysis, this was a decent deal to move forward with. It's on an as-needed basis. There's no guarantee as to the number that he's going to receive. And actually, he is a little less per animal than even our partners here in Palm Beach County. With all contracts, when we go out to RFP, we give local preference. And we'll continue to do that. So as we go out, we'll go out with an RFP to see what's out there and who wants to bid. And then our locals will receive local preference. If they're small and they meet the criteria, they'll receive SMWBE credits as well. And so we can select and bring back depending upon who responds. But I want to be clear, just because somebody demands an increase, that is not what your administrator brings to you.
May I respond, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Briefly.
Is this, look, I wanted to have lunch, I don't eat, I get a little testy, I know that. But what I'm just saying is this, do we have a possibility of putting this off so we can make a deep dive, or do we have to make this decision today, or he walks?
I haven't asked him. I just assumed that after we had discussed this and we felt that this was a good deal, and we've had such great support from the Board of County Commissioners, I felt that this was kind of a done deal, and I had scheduled him starting tomorrow for surgeries. I can call him and put them off, but then that means we're canceling those
It's
surgeries.
okay, no, it's okay, I think let's keep him on. No, I don't, God forbid. So let's do this,
We're going to
I certainly
take a
have no
vote.
objection to
Commissioner
us
White-
going ahead
Commissioner
and keeping him
Sachs,
on.
we're going to
But
take a vote.
I know, just let me finish my sentence. But in the meantime, let's go ahead, and I have no objection to his continuing on. I didn't know it was, I figured it was 11th hour, we need to do it or not do it. But let's go ahead and schedule a date that we can take a deep dive and help you out.
Of course,
Thank
no
you.
worries, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have one comment card.
And
Alexandria
Commissioner-
Larson.
Commissioner Weiss, you want to say your question now or after Ms. Larson?
I will defer to our public speaker, and then I have my comment.
Thank you.
It's so nice because there's so much talking up there. Was it Gertrude Maxwell who used to come in and beg for the kitty cats, Virginia? Because this has been going on for 30 years. That's the saddest part of this story.
This is about the contract price.
No, I know. I'm just giving you a background, and I will continue to do so. I'm just one sentence, for God's sakes. Gertrude Maxwell, because I had so much respect for her, she was begging for the kitty cats. She liked kitty cats, not doggies. But the other thing is, when it comes to contracts going up, every consent agenda is every contract we ever do going up. So that's another problem. But hopefully, you will come to a conclusion, because when I was doing the math last night, now it was really late, 2 o'clock in the morning, but I figured it out, it was like $86 a spay or neuter or whatever they do to the doggies. And it was $86, and I'll go home and send it to you what I saw, but it was, I guess we need this really badly, but we also need the deep dip that Ms. Sachs is referring to, because 30 years, commissioners, that's all I want to say. And I hope in Miss Maxwell's steed, we will do something for the kitty cats, because you should go up and study Martin County. They have a facility that's just kitty cats. No, go up and meet them and talk to them, because they got a really good thing. And they only take donations from people who are getting their cats fixed. Okay? Because I've gone there with my friends many times to fix their kitty cats.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the contract for professional services with Dr. Mark Kramer for Relief Veterinary Services to increase the hourly rate by $50 an hour to a new hourly rate of $200 retroactive to January 7th.
You're going to, actually, you're going to second Commissioner Woodward's motion because she already made the motion, so we'll make you.
We were so confused about what people were saying down here.
So Commissioner Woodward made the original motion. We had discussion. We now just had a second from Commissioner Weiss. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meow. Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0. It is now 12:50. We still have an agenda to complete, but I think everybody is hungry. So why don't we return at 2:15? 2:15.
Thank you.